nest of thoughts, watching your every move. I'm obsessed with you. Twisted thoughts erupting and slowly decaying. My jealousy, my envy is tearing me apart. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
masquerading as a child
a
of
monster
light,
with his cruel needs, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
What is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
Slithering around the murky green swamp, voodoo priests enchanting the dance, making deals in the dark. The laughing spirits and all that they hunt. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
Masquerading as a child
a
of light,
monster with his cruel needs, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
what is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
A foul smell in the air, potions fill my lair, deception lurking and waiting, with envy in my eye. My spirits ascend to spy. Voodoo is the ritual, odor fills the room, smoke-stained walls, and the energy is gloom. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
Masquerading as a child
a
of light,
monster with his cruel needs, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
what is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
Twisting the truth, for there is none in me, weaving dark magic all through the night. Tears of envy my jealousy ignites, darkness encasing alive in the night. My lying tongue grows fatter with every deceitful breath. My soul is rotting and it tastes like death. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
Masquerading as a child
a
of light,
monster with his cruel needs, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
what is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
The cloaked deceit, this is my life I'm doomed to repeat. A treacherous heart, envy growing in me. I wish I was you, with everything that I do. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
Masquerading as a child
a
of light,
monster with his cruel needs, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
what is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
Reaching out to the filthiest of scum, wishing I was him, not the man I become. The sickness in me, I'm a lunatic disease. Traitors and manipulators, part of my flock. We twist the truth and dance in the dark. The flames of hell are licking my feet.
Good will prevail, you will all fail.
When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, shape-shifting in the night, stalking you. Does my face seem familiar? Does my back tell you more? Will I change you or will it end you? And the power that I have could give you eternal life. Death doesn't know me. I've become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, where the mist, she follows me. I walk alone in the night, watching you, following you, leading on you through the night. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me. All your life I was still, I become the living dead. I own the darkness and know how it beats inside of me. I become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me.
A dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the seven seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now.
No sound. All right. Okay, guys. Welcome to Macabre Monday. Been doing this for several weeks now, and it's been good. We've had a pretty good turnout. A good way to remember the live stream is just that we do it on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So every other day, basically. The back-to-back days are Sunday and Monday. So start the week off on Macabre Monday, your work week, I guess, whatever. It's the Monday night show. Call in. And then we drop the podcast episode for all the pod people. And that's Terrifying Tuesday, right? And so we drop that podcast episode, and Tuesday, that's, yeah. So then we have Wednesday. Ugh. Weirdness Wednesday. We retell people's encounters. It's basically just a carbon copy of Sunday. Wednesday and Sunday is the same thing. Same thing. And then we're off on Thursdays typically, and then Friday is Fright Night Friday. And then we're back again on Sunday, Supernatural Sunday. So, and the Tuesday podcast, don't forget, it drops on YouTube too. Now, we were talking about moving over. There's several people who've said, hey, I can't afford $9.99 a month. I can't afford $10. And, you know, I guess some people can't. I think that's a very reasonable price, and just, you know, it'll get us to where we don't have to deal with all the headaches that come along with the tube of you. And so what we're probably going to do, and I'm not going to bend, you know, to any one particular person, but, you know, there's only been a handful of people who've said that. There've been a multitude of people who said that they would be willing to pay the $10. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to more than likely, we're still going to go to the website. We're going to have to. We just don't have a choice. I don't know how quickly that'll happen, but it's got to happen pretty quick. I got things going on here. It's about to be 105, 106 degrees this week in the Austin, San Antonio corridor. And my AC's out. And I literally cannot afford to get another one. So I have to sell my gold, at least some of it. Thank goodness I invested a lot. And get the money to get it fixed. Because I also have a ranch to keep up with. We're trying to get it going out there. So I've dumped an incredible large amount of money into these ventures. You know. And I'm enjoying our house. I'm enjoying whatever, but without the, you know, it is a 30-year-old house that was well kept, but it's 30 years old. And so the AC went out on it. And so we got to get that fixed. And of course, we had a home warranty. And of course, they don't cover what's wrong with our AC. So the AC guy that came out, he was actually a pretty cool guy. And he was, I think he's pretty honest. He seems to be. Because we had another guy that was a friend of ours kind of double check and just to make sure he wasn't trying to. And he seems to think that he's on the up and up and he's being honest. And we've had, 3 different people look at it?
Yeah.
All say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the warranty people, they decide that it's not covered. So the last guy that came out, he told us flat out, point blank. He says, "I hate working with this particular warranty company." He's like, they just rip people off. He said they never. What did he say? They never.
I said that they always deny claims, like that. Typically, like what they'll do is they'll send these contractors on these jobs, and they'll spend hours sometimes diagnosing a problem. They'll report it to the warranty company, and then they just deny it every time, so that they don't even get to do the work to make that money. So contractors can't stand warranty companies, and most of them don't even work with them, which I didn't know that. So,
and this guy actually worked for Sears.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he told us flat out. He was just like, that's a terrible warranty company. And then when I called and I talked to them, they said that I could not get a full refund. So they're only going to refund me part of it. And it's like, and not even enough to wipe your butt with. I'm like, wow. So y'all basically robbed me. So what's the point of having it?
Yeah,
I'd strongly
it's
suggest
garbage.
not doing it, folks, because they're not going to cover it. You're going to waste money every month. They're just like the insurance companies. They're all full of crap, dude. And so you're just going to waste bunches of money. Yeah, and they're not going to cover nothing. And then eventually you're going to have to pay a bunch of money out of pocket for whatever the problem is. I have another friend who went through this with something else. It wasn't the AC. But yeah, it was just the same old crap. So, yeah, so because I asked them what they covered, and they rattled off some crap from some script that the lady read, and she was completely rude and she didn't care. She didn't give a crap, and there's nobody you can talk to deal with anything. So, hang on 1 second, folks. I mean,
okay.
So it is what it is. We are what we are. Thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. Thank you for the membership gifting. That definitely helps. We need to have people get your name in green. It's $5. It helps the show, and you can be entered into the giveaway. We will be doing the giveaway. Right now, we're not doing any giveaway until we can have time to do the mail offs. It's not a matter of. It's just time. It costs us about $400 or $500 to do the mail off, and that's perfectly fine. That's the price we're willing to pay for the show and for you guys. The problem is time. We have to actually get up here, and when we're all working till like 6, 7, sometimes 8 in the morning, some of us, not me, but the other guys, it's hard to get up there, man, and get up here and get the stuff together and get it done, because there are like 20, 30 winners, So if you've won, just be patient. You'll get your stuff. It may take a little bit, but you'll get it. It'll come to you. And if you've won in the last couple of weeks, we have not mailed yet. We are trying to get it all together. Man, these hats really piss me off. Like they come. So put the link down there so anybody wants to jump in.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to jump in and tell your story, I know there was a couple people during the week telling me they wanted to jump on Monday. They do this. They'll send you a hat, and it's like, you order it a certain size because you figure that's the size, and then you get it, and it feels like it's a size too big or a size too small. And you never know what the heck you're going to get. So I have a weird size, I'm kind of in between 7 3/4 and 7 7/8, and then I'll get a hat, one of those two, and then if I go to a place like the Lids or one of these places that sells it, like Finish Line or whatever, or there's a place called Fans, I think, in the mall, but they never have my size. Never. You got to so you order them, and then you don't know what you're going to get. It's ridiculous. Appalachian Jimmy. Is that Jimmy Blanton? If that is, man, you should jump on with us.
Yeah, the link to join is pinned at the top of the live chat, so anyone can click on that and join the show. Samuel, yeah, if you click on that link, you don't have to do a video. You can also you can just do audio. You don't have to have a camera. So it's the same as a call in, and you can still do it on your phone. It'll just open up your web browser.
Yeah, you just jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
There was like several people this week that were saying that they were gonna. Is that them?
Yeah, I think so. I want to make
You
sure.
want to get Cooper out? So we have 2 border collie pups. What's up, Elvira? Elvira's here too. Elvira, hold on. She's here hanging out. She's hanging out with Cooper. Hanging with Mr. Cooper. So we have Cooper. There you go, Cooper. What's up, Cooper boy? Look at that. Look at that. That's a sweet boy. Look, he's a little shy. He's a little shy boy. You see this? Say hi, Cooper. Hey, Cooper. He's like, I have no idea what's going on. And so Cooper, he's 8 weeks old, aren't you? He's 8 weeks old? Yeah, look at this sweet boy. And so we got him, and then we got Evie or Ezzy. And she's his little sister, and she's with Mommy. She's with Nellie. She's on post working tonight at the hotel for us, so we can do the show. And these guys are a handful. You wake us up to go poo-poo and pee-pee, don't you? And you are so smart. At 7 weeks old, guys, he was able to poop and pee on the pads. He knows how to go to the restroom on the pads. That quick. When you tell him something, he knows. Like you tell him once or twice, he figures it out. This is the smartest guys. This dog is the smartest breed on earth. Yeah. I'm not joking. Look it up. This is the smartest breed. I don't like dumb dogs, you know. Mm-hmm. I love them. You know, I've rescued a few, but I don't like their demeanor, their personality when they just look at you like, you know.
Aren't Afghan wolfhounds like the dumbest dogs ever?
They're like 161st or something. And I used to know a guy who was a dog, you know, Alex, dog handler. Yeah. I used to work with him, and he trained that dog, and he trained it well. That's a testament to, he's like Caesar Milan. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that is crazy. What's up, Cooper Pooper? What's up, Cooper Pooper? Oh, you want to go play? You want to go play? Come here. Let's let you down. There you go. And off he goes. Don't chew on any cords, man. You can't let him just do whatever because he's teething, so he will chew on cords. Let's get our guest on here. We got some people getting into the deal here. Hang on, Samuel. Let's get you going.
Hey, good evening, Josh.
Yeah, Jimmy, if you want to jump on, man, you know, after you get home, whatever, we'll be on for a little while. Samuel, what's going on, my man? How you doing tonight?
Hey, good evening, Josh. Gotta say, long-time admirer of your work. I've been listening to you since I saw you on. Well, actually, I knew about you before from when you were interviewing with Vic. Mm-hmm. And I follow your page. I comment on your stuff. I'm glad to see you're doing better. I'm really happy about that. So keep up the good work, man.
Yeah, man. So how have you been? How you doing?
Recently laid off and currently job hunting inside of New York. It's not exactly the best thing, but you know, you have to keep your head up and do these things. But
what do you do for a living?
Operations management. And on the side, I do a lot of writing. I publish that thing, you know, the stuff that nobody reads, poetry.
I've been a published poet too. Yeah, I've been published twice, but I don't like you said, nobody reads it. I guess the books didn't make me much money.
Yeah, we had to look up your published poem.
Yeah,
we had to find it somewhere.
Yeah, it was called the Riddle.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to share with you guys sometime. But one quick thing that I find recurring that I wanted to ask you guys. I found out about Dogman in 2018, right? Before that, I had a sighting, but it was in 2014. I remember exactly when and where, but at the time I didn't know how to explain it. So I just basically filed it away in the memory banks until it was in passing one day driving to work. I used to put on things from YouTube to pass the time, stories, interviews, stuff like that, and I came up with Vic's show.
Hmm.
And I heard that was the first time I heard about it, and I heard the way it was explained and everything like that. And I had to pull over because I was like, son of a gun, that perfectly describes something I saw. And it was funny because I hear stories all over the country in different places, but I don't think I've ever heard of any sightings in New York, and my sighting was in upstate New York.
There's a lot of them actually.
Wow. I was with my ex at the time, and it wasn't exactly we were in the middle of the woods or anything like that. We were like at the edge of the woods where they have like park benches
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I was like about 20 yards away from the woods, and I noticed this thing. And I asked her if she was seeing the same. She was like, yeah. I'm like, I know animals. I can honestly say I know animals. I that was the first time I had ever seen anything like that. It was about, I would say it based on what I saw at first, I thought it was close to 8 feet tall, but then it was leaning out from against a tree. And then what looked like hands came out right next to its face, and it scratched the tree. And then the hand went back, and we just hightailed it to the car. We got out of there. But I came back the next day looking around, and
What you said this was in 2014?
correct, it was in April of 2014.
Oh wow.
So for over 4 years, I had no explanations of what I saw.
Yeah. What did people say when did you tell people? Like what did they say?
The only two people who knew about it, because I didn't say a word to anyone, was myself and my girlfriend at the time who saw it.
Mm.
And when we got to the car, I was shaking, but I just took off like a bat out of hell.
Yeah,
Um,
imagine.
uh, I couldn't be. I drove from the city because I was spending the weekend with her. And you're going out doing sightseeing and doing a little bit of shopping here and there, stopping at a restaurant, regular fun stuff. And it was a nice day. We just decided to stop by the park and relax and enjoy the nice weather when that happened. But I can honestly say I left after the next morning.
Yeah.
I didn't even spend the entire weekend.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think I would either. Yeah. So how old were you when this happens, if you don't mind?
I was 33.
So you were 33. So you weren't like a really young person. It wasn't like,
No.
and you weren't, so you're middle of the road there. Yeah. Because sometimes like it's weird, like people will see these things when they're in their teens, and
Hmm.
then they'll have, I'd say most people have like a recurring thing. They'll have where they'll see it again and again and again, and that's why I think they attach or they stalk, or you might have a particular bloodline. That's another theory I've had. Harp and
Well,
Blues, I see you in there, man. So, what ends up happening though, a lot of people though, they don't always recognize what it is, because they'll feel it. And that's the thing that happened to me. I started noticing, like, I started feeling it around me. I didn't really see it, but I knew that it was there on a few occasions, or at least something that was very, very similar to it. I worked at this, they were a company that built, it was a construction company, and they specialized in building retirement homes. And there was one in Round Rock. When they were building it, I could swear that thing was around me. It was the same feeling, the same ominous presence. And there was one night in particular, I did my rounds around the exterior of the property, the perimeter walk, it was a big place. So walking around that property, Anthony, you've seen it.
Yeah, I remember you telling me you feeling that presence years ago when you were working there.
Yeah, when you were young, you came and visited me up there when I was up there, and because you had needed a phone or something. And so you came up there, and the next day we drove in the morning to get you a phone, and it had already happened. I told you about it, but it was like I felt it.
You know what's funny is that you can always tell when there's a large predator on the loose. Like I was a park ranger for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
In my 20s, and as I said, I know animals. I know when to look out for certain things. You know when the woods get quiet and stuff like that. But at the time, when I was thinking back, when we used to stop at the park, we used to just watch birds and stuff like that. But I thought it was weird as we were going up. I wasn't hearing anything. But as for feeling something, as you mentioned, you could feel like there's something looking, like there's eyes on you. But I didn't see anything until we left the car, and then we walked up to the benches and we're sitting down. And it was close to the edge of the woods. That's why I said I could see it clearly.
So let me ask you another question, and this is actually this pertains to what we're talking about. Are you Sikh by chance?
No, but I'm East Indian descent. Originally, I'm from Guyana in the mainland of South America, but it's a founding member of CARICOM, so it's considered Caribbean.
Okay.
Right, but I am of East Indian descent, and it's funny. One of the reasons why I listen to these shows is on the off chance someone talks about the cryptids, which are seen inside of the Caribbean or in South America, which happens every now and again. Not quite often, but I know. I've never heard of Dogman until 2018, but I've heard of a lot of other things. But the one thing which I can honestly say that scared me about that thing is the size of it. I couldn't believe there was something that large, and from the eyes, it looked. On the off chance of sounding corny, it seemed as if those things were giving off their own light.
And you said, so you're living, because I got to tell you something. Now that you've struck a chord, this is a good way to segue into some of these cryptids and things that you were talking about. Are you Bengali?
No.
No.
Well, you will find a large population of people of East Indian descent living in different Caribbean islands, and more especially Trinidad and Guyana. More than 60% of the population in Guyana are of East Indian descent. It happened. Just a quick history. It happened after slavery was abolished by the British. They were looking for a new source of labor, and the British had India at the time, so they brought over workers from India.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and it all started with the British, because there's a West Indian population in England now because of that.
Yeah, you would find. I don't have to look too far. I have lots of family who are still living in England.
Wow. Yeah, because there's another province that was pretty well, actually Bataan, but Bataan was not. That's not. It's they're more of like a Asiatic jungle. people, but that area was taken over by the British too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Japanese, you know, the Bataan Death March. People don't really realize that, but the East Indians from Bihar,
Uh-huh.
you know, they actually fought a very pitched battle with the Japanese because they were incorporated by the British Royal Marines, and they fought. There was a heavy battle right there on the border with Bataan and I guess Nepal,
Yes.
and a lot of Indian people died there. I mean, a huge amount of Indian people died there, and there was a division called the Tiger Division, which was Bengali. They
Yeah,
were Bengalese. Yeah.
they had quite a number of well, during World War II, you had different specifications of people who fought for the British inside of the war. People from people from India and other Commonwealth nations.
Yeah.
Like there were people from the Caribbean who actually fought in World War II. I remember when I was growing up in Guyana. Um, I knew some of my father's. Well, he used the way we grew up is anyone older than you used to call them uncle or
Hmm.
aunt, you know. But it was a sign of respect. But growing up, like my dad always used to say, well, those two uncles they fought in World War II, you know, and this was back in the 80s. You know, you still had a lot of World War II veterans around. And they used to tell stories of how they traveled by ship, stopping in various Caribbean islands to pick up more soldiers to go to England. And then from England, they went to different places to North Africa. Um, one guy was actually fighting in Germany, and then came back. He lived in England for a while, and then he came back to the Caribbean years later. But yeah,
Another thing too about that East Indian region, eventually became like New Pakistan. Like it became Pakistan, like East Pakistan, which is
well,
weird.
before they had the division,
Yeah, before. Yeah.
yeah, because another place, well, in Toronto, you'll find a large population of East Indian people and a mix with Caribbean people living there, and in South Africa as well. A lot of the original people who went over with the British into South Africa were people from India at the time. They
Yeah,
still own a lot of businesses, shops, and stuff like that over there. They were brought there to help develop the place a bit.
yeah. A lot of those. It was a lot of people from Pakistan itself, and then what later became, you know, East Pakistan, which was East India. And so a lot of the immigration is heavily Muslim, and it turned, you know, they turned against the country of India itself. And
Right,
a lot of the people from the central parts of India, for some reason, they didn't seem to go as they weren't taken as much. If you ever watch that movie Ghost in the Darkness, it's interesting because there was a huge population of what would be considered now Pakistani, but they were
right.
Muslim Indian. Yeah. And people are confused whenever we talk about this because there's two Pakistans. I know it sounds weird, but there is, and they're separated by this big you know, mass that is India. And so there's all these disputed states, and I'm pretty sure like
Well,
uh,
Kashmir is still disputed.
Kashmir is
Yeah.
so like that's in the far north,
Yes.
very top, and
especially recently,
yeah, they're fighting like
tooth
hardcore,
and nail.
and but at one time, Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand, they were all disputed between them too. And the Sikhs, the reason I thought maybe you were Sikh is there was a large population of Sikhs up in the north and to the east, and you know, at that top area right there. And a lot of the Sikhs did a lot of the heavy lifting and fighting. They did in that Bengal division, the Bengal division. They fought a lot against the
Well,
Japs,
well, the Sikhs were originally known as the warriors of India.
warriors.
Hmm.
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 very tough people. And so, and then when they wanted to separate from the Muslims and from the Hindus. They wanted to be their own. They wanted their autonomy. So they kind of ended up fighting, in skirmishes with both
Yeah.
Pakistan and India. What's interesting, though, I have a really good friend who's a Sikh. That's why I was wondering. And his last name is Singh, like yours, which is actually a very common Indian last name.
Well, it's funny because two of the very common names, it's Singh and Patel.
Patel, yeah.
Yeah,
Patel
that's half of India.
Yeah, that's half of it. It truly is. Those
Yeah.
are very common last names. Whenever I hear somebody say Patel, because I know that comedian David Patel, and everybody was like,
Yeah.
David Patel is this and that. And I said, no, he's not. He's at least part Indian because his last name is Patel. And everybody was like, no, he was. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll prove it. And we looked it up. A bunch of people were arguing with me. And seeing, like, one of the guys that's friends with us, his name is Sanjay. And Sanjay is a very common.
Well, you don't get more Indian than that.
Yeah, Sanjay. And he actually, there's a guy named Sanjay that works with us through the camera companies we work for. He's up in Toronto, like you're saying, Toronto. And he actually, I made a bet with him. I thought Toronto was going to lose in the first round, the Maple Leafs. So I'm going to wear a Maple Leafs hat. I told him I would if they even made the playoffs because I didn't think they were very good. And I said, nah. I started getting into hockey a little more, and I have my teams. Like, I like the Stars, And I told him, I said the Stars and the what's it called, the Knights or whatever. So if he sends me the hat, I'll wear it. So I told him, okay. But he's up there, and I talk to him like probably once a week because he's like, okay, once again, you have a guy on the property. He doesn't want to leave. I yelled at him on the camera, and he tells me, because he'll yell at him too. He'll be like, get off of the property. And he'll scare them, and they'll look around like, why is there a robot talking to me?
Next time you talk to him, ask him if he's keeping up with the IPL cricket.
Oh, yeah. He's a cricket fan. I got a couple of friends of mine. The guys that used to live above us when I had our condo at the Domain, they worked for a large computer company. They were the ones that told us about that Dogman creature running around on their campus.
Really?
And they were big cricket guys. And so one day, me and my brother decided to go with him to the cricket field. This is back in 2008 or something. Okay, so we went out there. I had one day off. I went out there and I tried. Not very good at it. It wasn't my thing, man. I just couldn't get the hang of it, dude. But
it takes a little bit of practice, I'll tell you that. But for instance, my first time playing baseball, it was weird for me. I kept putting the bat down, and they're like, "No, pick it up, put it behind your shoulder." I'm like, I can't do this crap.
It's weird to hold the bat down like that. And then the ball hits the ground.
For me, it's easier to put it down there and waiting for the pitch. I told my friend who was pitching at the time, I said, "All right, just do me a favor, just pitch. I'll hold the bat down there." And when he did it, I just swung and I cracked it. And they said, "Well, it's out. It doesn't count." I'm like, "Why doesn't it count? I hit it what would be considered a home run." They said, "Well, you have to hit it between these two, between this area for it to count." I said, "Well, that's a difference. Because in cricket, it doesn't matter which direction you hit it. As long as it goes, it counts."
Yeah. Yeah. Cricket's if you go down to Houston, they have like 8 large cricket fields right there, right before you get into Houston on 290. Yeah. And they advertise it as the largest cricket fields in the entire state. And there are always a bunch of people out there playing too. And it's not all Indian people. They got a lot of those people playing too, like Hispanic and white people. I've seen them doing it.
Well, for two of the biggest sports in the world actually happen to be soccer and cricket. It's only in North America per se that baseball is that big. But you believe it or not, the U.S. has its own cricket team right now, and participated in the World Cup of Cricket. 2 years ago was the first time they played. But if you look at the team, half of the players from the U.S. are from India and the Caribbean.
It's true. It really is true. Yeah, and it's funny because you're talking about cryptids from your So let's get into this. I have a question since you came on.
Sure.
You talk about Dogman. I have a story because one of our old roommates, Pug, we used to call him Pug. Him and Scorpion had a horrible fight one time in our front yard. And for some reason, they ended up like tearing each other's shirts off and whatever. And the neighbors and the people at the store across the street, they were like, why were they fighting out there in their underwear? I was like, it didn't start out that way. They just brutally beat each other. And Pug ended up body slamming Scorpion because Scorpion wasn't nearly as big at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scorpion like pushed 2 of his teeth in, and he was from Dutch Guiana.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Suriname.
Yeah, Suriname. Yeah. And so he's from Suriname. So his grandmother was a sweet lady, and she worked security with me when I first started working out there. When I first got started, I had her working for me because we worked together. Yes, Scorpion, we know you won that fight. You were very, very adamant. And so we ended up, the guy was pretty cool though. We were friends with him for years. And so his grandmother worked with me. And one night we were working together and there was a bad storm. And there was something, I'm going to tell you, Samuel, there was something out there in those woods because we had a guy named Philip that worked for us, my cousin Bo, another guy named Bones, old friends of mine. They saw this creature and they said it looked like now we would identify it as a pale crawler.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I didn't know what it was. And we thought it just looked like a weird Gollum-esque looking gray alien.
Yeah, and it's weird because before y'all had actually seen that and told me about it, like the first time that I went to go work out there on that post, I didn't see that physically, but like I kept getting this image in my mind's eye of something that looked just like that while I was working.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept popping in my head, and I kept thinking like this thing's out here, or maybe it's just like I just brushed it off. But then y'all said, hey, and I didn't say anything about it. Y'all had seen it, and then we talked about it. It's weird.
Yeah, and what was even weirder was like one night when I was out there working, it got the weather, because remember it was the storms that year were real bad. The lake filled up and it actually flooded a little bit, and they had to open the dam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up having to go into the pool house with one of those really bad storms. The next day, I didn't work for 2 days, and the cameras that they had at that time, they hadn't had them set up real. This is weird. One of the guys that we had 2 people there. After that, there was a problem. One of the workers had stole something. We had 2 people there for about 2 weeks. So we had one guy that would sit in the pool house and one guy that would sit out in between the Via Montana property, and it's on Comanche Trail, if you look at a map, and then this big house that we were guarding. And a couple of the neighbors had pitched in for us to watch their houses too, because there had been a string of robberies down the hill. So we were on high alert. They're like, hey, check it, do this. So the guy that owns the Oasis, I worked with him, and I actually did security for him and his property when he was building that subdivision. A lot of people would drive through there trying to boost stuff. And so I remember that night that there was somebody that got rescued, because I remember there were helicopters flying over the lake because somebody was stupid enough to be out on their boat that night.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, well, so you've done it. So people,
I've done it.
So they were out there and they were getting rescued. And so I had to go into the pool house, and the guard that was in there, I told him, I said, yeah, just take the top bunk, whatever, because there's nothing. The rain was so, you couldn't see anything, you couldn't do anything, couldn't hear anything. So I was off for 2 days after that because I was working on these other contracts, these places called the docks, and so I was doing the docks, and that area where the docks were is actually where there was a Dogman sighting. I worked it for a couple of days when I first got that contract, and there was another security guard who had told me this story about this. I've talked about it maybe in my book too. This thing was like swimming across the water, and when it came out, it began to shake and shimmer, and it was green. It turned into a man. I mean, it was like a werewolf looking creature. And so anyway, that's a crazy story I covered. And then there's like this house on the corner right there that Garetano had on his show. Me and my wife in that same area, we heard like wood knocks. So it's a very creepy area, but I was there and I was working for like 2 days. Well, Sean, this guy that worked for me, he calls me up and he goes, did you see the cameras from that storm the other night? And it was still raining. I was like, which one? Which storm? It's been raining 3 or 4 times a week for 3 weeks. Which one? And he goes, the one where the people had to get rescued out of the town on the Lake Travis. And I said, no, I didn't. He goes, okay, well, he goes, because the cameras, and he wasn't tech savvy, so he didn't know how to keep it from happening. But every 72 hours, the camera would just erase and start over because it didn't have a lot of memory or whatever. And I said, well, I'll get over there tomorrow and I'll take a look at it. He goes, you have to see this. And so he told me what it was a little bit, but not much. And so I get over there the next day. I was supposed to go in the morning. And get this, I show up and it was in the evening because I had a bunch of crap to do. I went to go do a bunch of reports and stuff because we had 4 accounts. The company was just getting started. It was before I merged with the company I'm with now. They bought me out basically, but I saw something really weird there one night, but I thought it was so quick. I didn't know what it was. And my dog started I had a big old dog, a mastiff. He started freaking out. So I go back to the pool house that evening. Scorpion had gone in that morning, and I honestly fell asleep at my desk at the office. So I go into where the cameras are, and I said, okay, let me look at the cameras, and the cameras had started over. And so I didn't get to see what it was. So I called Sean up and I'm like, hey, Sean, I was like, dude, what's going on, man? And he worked for another company. He was only working for us 2 days a week, and he was at his other job. And he says, let me call you back. So about 3 a.m, the witching hour, right? I'm sitting there all night. I'm sitting by myself. We were back to one guard. He calls me up and he goes, okay, I got a minute here. Because he was working security for Dell at that time. And he goes, let me tell you what I saw on the camera. And he goes, it was a pale, weird, crawling, alien-looking thing that comes walking out of the woods. He goes, it looks both ways, and then it crawls right up to your truck and starts looking in the window, and then it tries the door handles of your truck. And when he told me that, dude, I'm sitting in that exact spot where he claims this happened in the night of the storm.
You didn't sage your truck?
Dude, but I had that when he was telling me this, I was sitting right there. But that night I had gotten out of my truck with my dog and gone into the pool house, which is like there's like a little bunkhouse, and it was this huge place. And then there was like a guest house, and there's like a 4-story house with an elevator. It's a big mansion. The lady's rich; she's a horse rancher, and so I just when he told me that, I said, "What?" He says, yeah, dude, this like white, pale, alien looking creature, like this is what he told me. I didn't see it. I don't count it as an encounter because I didn't see anything like that. So it crawls out of the woods and goes up to my truck, dude. So imagine if I would have been in the truck and I probably would have been laid back, probably because you can't do anything when it's torrential rain like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, it was kind of hard to see. He's like, but I saw it, dude. He goes, and then it moved around and then it crawled kind of under the truck a little bit. And then it just kind of sat there. Then it shot off real fast across the road toward the property. Then it veered off back across the road into the woods. And so Bo, my cousin, claims to have seen that thing. My brother caught a glimpse of it. Philip saw it, another guy. And another guy that we call Bones. They all witnessed this creature, dude, like in glimpses. But this thing, he said it was tall, it was long, but it was on all fours. And he said he couldn't make it out perfectly, but it looked like it had 3 fingers. That's what he said. Now that's weird. Yeah, it's interesting because somebody had told me that they had found 3-toed track. It was a Doughboy. Remember Doughboy?
Yeah.
Anthony? He used to be not a drag racer, a street racer. And he was pretty good too. He had the nitric on his vehicles and all that. But he lived out there, and his uncle was like a stunt man, and or his neighbor, I'm sorry, was a stunt man, and they would be out there doing all kinds of stuff. And they were wealthy people. I mean, they all made a living doing whatever they did. There was another guy that was owned. What was his name? What's his name?
Gary Gygax?
Gary Gygax. He had that Ultima Online.
Yeah,
he owned Ultima Online. He was there, and then some woman whose husband worked for National Geographic. I mean, these people were wealthy.
Wow.
Wealthy. There was a big shot lawyer out there. Got to know him pretty well, him and his wife. They were pretty cool. But it was just a crazy thing. That thing was out there just roaming around. And then, me and Scorpio one time, we found the mouth of the cave that we think it was in. We didn't go into it though. And when you get up to it, you can smell like this weird death smell, and like there's this breeze coming out of it. You're like, what in the hell? So we just walked right back to our vehicles. Like, no way, dude.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned caves. Generally speaking, when I used to go up to different areas in Guyana, especially in the jungle areas and stuff like that, anytime you find a cave, you always used to leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're with the natives, we call them Amerindians of Guyana. They used to tell you many times. They used to say, "Don't go near their bad spirits." They just tell you, and you know right away to avoid there.
Yeah.
Or certain times when you used to pass through different areas, they used to tell you about trails, which trails to take, which ones not to take. And one time, I was about what 16, 17 at the time. We decided one afternoon to take a walk on one of the trails where they told us not to go. I can honestly say that wasn't the best best decision we made because not 5 minutes walking into it, you start feeling different. I mean, you're in the middle of the bloody jungle,
Mm-hmm.
but you know when what's normal and what's not normal. That feeling which came over was not normal. It wasn't just like a regular jaguar or something up in the trees staring at you. This was something else. You could feel it. This was something malevolent. And we, needless to say, we hightailed it right back to camp. And none of us slept well that night. But the following day, myself and the other guy, we were on edge, and we made it to the Amerindian village. And I noticed one of the old men looking at me and laughing, and didn't say anything. He called us over. He's like, "You boys went on the other trail, didn't you?" And before we could say anything, he's like, I can smell it off of you." I'm like, "What do
Oh.
you mean?" He's like, "You can always tell once you go there, when that thing starts." He mentioned the name which eludes me right now, but it wasn't Massacurman. Massacurman is similar to what you might call Bigfoot over here,
Mm-hmm.
but he's like, it's not Massacurman.
It's a water. But it's like a water spirit, though, right?
No, Massacurman in Guyana is no. It's sort of like a tall, hairy man, but the legs are faced backwards.
Hmm. Yeah, I knew
And
about that, but I thought it was considered like a water elemental.
no, but it lives near water places. They have quite a number of elementals, but I can tell you one thing though. There are lots of things inside of the jungle area over there which the natives know about, and they once you talk to them, they talk about it as factual, not as
Mm.
mythological or anything like that. It's something that they say, yeah, we saw one last week, or something you would say like that. Maybe like, oh, I saw a coyote while driving. Well, yeah, I was walking on this trail and I saw this. It's that matter of factual when they say these things. And but one thing I can tell you though, if you're looking for paranormal stories, uh, there are too many things that I've seen myself
Yeah.
and experienced myself, and I know that they're real. I used to do blessings, and I used to help doing cleansings for places, apartments, and stuff like that. So I've seen and I've experienced a lot of things. I was actually attacked twice,
Wow.
and one of a very good friend of mine. He used to work at the hospital here in near in Long Island, New York. I'm not gonna say the name of the hospital, but he always used to say, "Dude, it's haunted." I used to work nights at the time, and every time he would have to go downstairs near the morgue, he would call me on the phone. He's like, "You're keeping me company. I'm not walking down there by myself," because everyone used to refuse to go down there with him.
Yeah, the
And
spirits that you're talking about, like these, the way I remember being told, because my friend's grandmother was from there. There was a creature called a heeg. It was like a
old hag, old
yeah,
hag.
it's a. But I thought it was called like a heege or higi or
No,
something.
Higue, but it's
Higue. Yeah, it's
yeah, but you
pronounced
called it
hag.
hag, hag.
Hag. There you
Hmm.
go.
Yeah,
Hag. Yeah.
the actual name of it, they generally called it old hag.
The old hag. Yeah, and there's a baku. I know
Baku,
there's a
it's sort of like a, so what you might call like a supernatural dwarf type
yeah, it's like
thing,
a
or
duende type creature. See,
yeah,
I'm almost positive though. I remember reading the Masakurome was actually a creature that would hang around near the swamps and the water, and it would
well, it's
drag
always
people. Yeah,
close to
it
it.
would drown people. That's what
It's
it did.
known to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and then there was a kamiyami or kami.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's like a little devil creature that lives in the woods. Like it's a little wood devil or whatever.
Hmm.
yeah,
And it'll trick you too. It'll trick you into going off the trail. It'll create a false trail and then it'll attack you.
right. You mentioned quite a few things. There's like the Baku.
Hmm.
There were a couple of times when hundreds of people saw them,
Yeah.
witnessed them. They're actually one of the stories behind them is you can get them. You can get them. They can live with you, and they're
Yeah, I'm
extremely
good.
loyal. But
Oh man.
if you try to cross them, then they will do everything to destroy you.
Yeah, and that's the key to all of these little creatures. They're
Hmm.
always like, "Oh yeah, we'll be your friend until we're not," and then they'll try to kill you.
Yeah,
That happens
uh,
every freaking time. I don't think there's ever been one that's not gonna try and kill you at some point. It's just like, and the overall name of these creatures, they call them the Jumbies.
yeah.
The
Well,
Jumbies. The Masakurame is like, I think it's I don't know how to spell it exactly,
mhm.
but look it up, Anthony. It's just spell it best you can. Massa Kuramin, like maybe ramen. Not sure if that's the last how you spell it,
You
but
said
that's
Masakurame?
Massacre Ramen. Yeah, that's what they're
Ramen.
called. It's called a Masakuramen, like that's Kuraman, Kumaran, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just make sure you
Formidable
don't
river
come across
guardian.
masquerade.
See, what did it say?
Hang on. It's a river spirit, menacing creature,
See?
capsizes boats and is feared for
There
allegedly
you go.
consuming those who fall into the water.
See, I told you. I knew because she had told me a story about that creature. Pug's
Well,
grandma.
they're not only known as
No, they're not.
water
They're
spirits.
considered watered elementals, but they are
Oh,
hairy. Now here's the creature that people don't realize. In that South American region, there is a water panther,
yeah.
and it'll come out of the water and grab you, and it takes you into the water. And as it's taking you into the water, it almost kind of has like this webbing under its arms, and it just wraps you up, and it drowns you, then it consumes you. And it's not a jaguar. A lot of people think that it's a jaguar. No, this creature is black and it has almost human-like hands when it grabs people, and they just call it a water panther. But it's also considered one of the Mesokuramen. But you're talking about the hairy man.
Yes.
The hairy man, I was confused because I thought that the hairy man was something else. I thought that was one of the Jumbe, but that's like a different creature in the Guianan tradition. I thought that was more along the lines of a large one of these little whatever they call devils. I forgot what they're called.
I think the one which you're talking about, the water panther, Mishipehu,
Is that what it's
Mishipeshu.
called? Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what they call it, Mishipeshu.
yeah. Because the Piaroas down in the jungle, they believe in this giant spider they call the Enanage, and that creature can take the form of this panther. Like they're actually just spider-like entities that can transform and they can walk on water, which is just like, oh God, dude. I've studied so many of these things, dude. There's another one too called a Raz.
Yes.
A Raz, which basically that's like a vampire. It's like a
Well,
pyro vampire.
Well, technically, they call it the fire ass.
Fire
Um,
ants, yeah.
yeah, but that is actually another name for old hag.
Yeah.
There
Mhm.
there are varying descriptions of it inside of as you move from island to island. Like for example, in Trinidad, they will call it sukunya. But it's basically the same thing, and it's known for one thing. Well, when it comes to feed, it would lull you to sleep, and you'll go into this
Mhm.
deep sleep, and you'll wake up in the morning, and you'll just notice two marks, either on your arm or on your leg, where the veins go, where
Mhm.
where the blood flows, and they're especially drawn to when they're young children.
Yeah.
So where I lived in Guyana at one time, if you look towards the sea, the ocean side, you used to see them jumping. Then that's how they travel. They jump very large distances in great leaps. Um, One time I was sitting on my veranda and my father is a retired pastor, but we were sitting in the parsonage and I was watching it jump from where the seaside and
I'm
coming
still here.
towards.
I'm just gonna close my screen for just a minute, guys, but I'm still here. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead. But go
Well, I
ahead.
saw this thing jumping, and then it just leapt over the house, and I was sitting there, and it landed on top of a coconut tree. And at the same time, I was calling my dad. I'm like, "Look, look, look! Did you see it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they're known to be around here." And that was it. He just turned and walked away. It was that kind of crazy, seeing these things and just like it's no big deal. I remember I've seen them in distance, but I've never seen one like where you can just look look like a house away and just it's right there. That's probably the closest I've ever seen one and well remember, so to speak. So I gotta say I'm actually quite impressed in your knowledge of the Caribbean paranormal entities.
Yeah, I just looked that one up, and I'd actually never heard of it, and he just dropped the dropped the name of it, and it came right up. I'm actually impressed with you because I'd never even heard of that thing. I still can barely pronounce it. What is it? The Masukuraman
What is it?
Masakuraman.
Masakuraman, yeah.
What
But
are you guys talking
I
about?
have a question. So the he you said
Haig. Yeah, it's pronounced
hike
Haig.
hike.
Yeah.
So is that just like the hag, like the old lady?
Well,
What is that?
that's how it got its name. It's like how you say, which is an old hag, old
Mhm.
hags. Well, that was one way that they described it, but it just got it just changed into Haig, old Haig, and the pronunciation I think just stuck. But
Yeah.
Right.
technically, these are creatures. If you see them during the day, they look like regular human beings, but more than likely, they look like an older person. And at night, they peel off their skin and they're transformed into a pulsating ball of fire. And they travel by doing great leaps.
And seeing that goes in time with what we know about the jinn.
I was gonna say that sounds like a
They
gin to me,
travel in balls of fire.
like plasma.
Yeah. And so so the Heeg can actually become the rise. Yeah. So that's interesting. And I
Well,
thought it was
the names are synonymous with each other.
yeah,
Inside of different areas, they know them as Olhaig, and if you go more into the rural areas, they just say fire ass.
yeah. The Maracabra was the name of that creature. It's a water tiger. They call it
Hmm.
that.
Ah,
Yeah, the Maracabra. That's what I was told that it was called, was the
yeah.
Maracabra. And according to my friend's grandmother, she had an encounter with one of those when she was young in
My
Guyana.
father had an encounter with it, My father used to work in the jungle for many years before. So a couple of times he used to tell us stories about things which he saw
Hmm.
from um, wandering spirits, which you would see plain as you're looking at another human being. Many of them, they don't look as if they're deceased or anything. You think you're seeing a regular person, but then there was one time he was with an Amerindian, and the man just froze, and he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna talk to that guy?" And he's like, "No, just wait, pretend as though you're not looking at him." And when the other person left, he said, "That's not a person, that's a spirit." He's like,
Mm.
"What do you mean? I just saw the guy." He's like, "Yeah, we buried him 3 weeks ago."
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's weird because there was a story I just read about a woman who was buried and kept coming back and buried and kept coming back. And I saw it on one of the posts in one of the groups that we have. And dude, it was creepy. Like I just read it. It was just a quick story. And it was about this woman who had been accused of being a witch, well, a vampiric witch. And she kept coming back, and she became like this ghoul. And even when they burned her at the stake, all it did was burn half of her body because a storm hit and wiped it out. So finally, they had some. I guess we could be considered like an early psychic. This is from like the 1800s, early 1800s, and it happened here in the United States. And I can't remember the name of it. It was something I just read. I just read it real quick, and it was in one of the groups. And they asked this woman who was just a walking corpse at this point, and she said, I'll die, but I want to be buried away from here, because
oh
she cursed
wow,
these people for. But obviously, she really was a witch because she kept coming back. She was like this vampiric. And when they showed a picture of her corpse that did not really decay, um, yeah, and then Shade Viking says, "Yeah, that post I seen it, Wolf, a vampire story. It was short and but it was good. Yeah, it was weird, man. Like, and you
well,
get those stories out of like Eastern Europe, like quite a bit.
some of the earliest recordings of vampire stories are actually something like that. Like I remember, I saw this on a documentary one time. They said one of the early recordings was of a family sitting together and a man knocking on the door. So I guess it was the hospitable thing to do was to let him in, and they gave him something. But the man looked disheveled, long overgrown hair and everything, and his nails were long, and they put food and drink to him, and he picked up the bowl, he drank something, and he looked at the head of the house, the father sitting there, and the father looked petrified. When they left, they asked him, "Well, who was that?" He's like, "That's my father. He died when I was young."
Wow.
But all across Eastern Europe, you have these stories of them. They're some of the earliest accounts. I don't know if you know this, but you might have heard of it. The account of two soldiers and how they witnessed them staking a couple of corpses, and the investigation which went on. I
The
forget.
Austrian vampire.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
in my book. I'm writing about that one in my book. Is he
yeah.
crying? Hold on one second. If you want to bring him here, dude, he can sit with me. He won't cry if he's with me. My puppy Cooper, he's crying for me.
Yo, how's it going, y'all?
How's it going, man? How you doing, Cooper? Cooper,
Pretty
Cooper.
good, pretty good. Happy to be here.
Yeah. You want to hang out with us, Samuel? You want to hang out, or do you need to run?
Oh, I'm gonna have to run, but it was lovely talking to you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Enjoyed it. We need to do an episode together for the podcast so we can let the pod people learn about the cryptids of Suriname and Guyana, and talk a little history and tell them your Dogman encounter. Also, they're looking for people to tell. We got quite a few Dogman and Bigfoot. He's gonna just
Jeez.
walk over there.
Yeah,
We got a few Dogman and Bigfoot people, but It'd be interesting because you coming from the Caribbean, the Indian, the West Indian background to have on there on the show. There's a TV show, and I'm trying to recruit, and they want extra people, like demographically, because right now they have like kind of like just a very narrow demographic, and they want a wider demographic, which is where I come in, because I have people from all over the damn universe who can give them stories. So I've given them probably 20, 30 different people. But if you're interested, let me know, because I think your story would be good, because it's from upstate New York. I don't know if they have any from up there right now. But I'm sure that they would be glad to talk to you.
I'd be more than happy to participate.
Yeah, give me your information. I'll pass it along to them. They've hit up quite a few different people in this community to do it, but so far they're getting a lot of the same demographic. And like I said, I can help fill that niche pretty easily, because there's so many different people who've given me stories from so many different places, and they've reached out to a lot of my witnesses. So we'll see what they decide. But yeah, I'd love to have you on board with that, Samuel. I think it'd be great.
Not a problem. I'll be more than happy to participate.
We're friends on Facebook, right?
Yeah, we are.
Send me your information on Facebook, email and your number, and so I can get it over to them.
All right, no problem, Josh. Gentlemen, It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me. I'm pretty sure we'll reconnect.
We will. Definitely.
Appreciate you.
All right, thank
Samuel.
you, guys. Have a good night.
All right, see ya. So, Kiri, what's going on with you, man?
Not much. Just chilling. I got work tonight. I work overnights, and I saw you pop up with the open line, so I kind of wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, because usually I miss it. Usually I'm asleep, and I always end up listening to the videos while I'm working at work. So yes,
So
sir.
what do you got? Do you have a story encounter? Do you just wanted to say hi, or what's going on?
A little bit of both. I
Okay.
don't really got much on the encounters. I have one Goatman type story from some people I used to know. They were in Oregon, and I guess
Sounds
so.
about right. Oregon's weird. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what part of Oregon or where they were at, but it was nighttime, and they were both they're a couple, by the way. They were walking down this trail at night in the dark, and suddenly Alicia, she had to use the bathroom like really bad, so Luke was like, "Go ahead, I'll be right here." So I guess she went to go squat in a bush real quick, and she randomly saw this man like sitting on the ground, and it was a long time ago since they told me the story, so it's a little fuzzy, but I remember like the general parts of it. She saw this dude, he was sitting on the ground, and then I think his eyes were like white, like his head had turned around like by itself, like just the head, kind of like like owls do. And all of a sudden, I guess she had got up, and she looked back, and there was like this dirt wall had like appeared out of nowhere in front of this dude, and she got scared like hella bad, like frightened the shit out of her, and then she went and ran back to her boyfriend, and then she was like, "We gotta get the fuck out of here." And then so like they were walking, and then all of a sudden they saw the dude was like walking behind them, and then all of a sudden he had like hooves on his feet, and then so they were like, "Shit, we gotta get out of here." So they started running away, and then the guy was like running after them and was pretty much chasing them. And yeah, he had like hooves on his feet, and I don't remember if they said if he had horns or not on his head, but that's pretty much like what happened.
Yeah, that's a story that's been told and retold, and I think that people still to this day will see this. One of my friends down in Mexico, we call him Flaco, but that dude, man, he claimed just recently that he was at a cantina right there near Monterey, and that he saw a guy with chicken feet. Because Cooper, what are you? Hold on one second. Cooper, you're just gonna squirm around, aren't you? Go play with Elvira. Go play with
He wants to
Elvira.
press the buttons.
He wants
It's
to.
a nice dog, by the way. I like that dog.
Yeah, he's a border collie. Elvira quit. They
Nice.
were next door playing with some toys, and I guess they got bored and started banging on the wall, saying, "Hey, we want to come in there with you guys." And so Nellie took Ezzy with her to the girl, took her to work with her because she's real rambunctious. Cooper's not as rambunctious. And so I said, okay, I'll take Cooper, and he can come to the studio with me. He's okay as long as I'm like holding him or whatever. But if I'm not, he'll start crying. He gets kind of whiny. But he's sort of attached with me. He likes me. When I come in the room, that's all he wants to do is hang out.
Wants to hang out.
Yeah, but he's a good boy. They're very smart dogs. They're good cattle dogs. So let me ask you this. These people that told you this, they said that they saw this creature, but they didn't see horns. They just saw the hooves.
I don't remember because it was a while ago, like over a year ago when they told me the story. I don't remember if they had mentioned the horns or not. But for sure I remember that the guy had like hooves and his eyes were like white, like the entire eyeball was white, and this weird dirt wall had like appeared in front of the guy when she first saw him. Like the wall wasn't there, and then all of a sudden it was there, like this weird wall, dirt
Dude,
wall.
and what do you think about this, Kyrie? Because this could be, I've thought about this too, like the Mandela effect. People don't realize this is all connected because people will see cryptids. Have you ever heard of jamais vu?
I have not.
Okay, you've heard of déjà vu, right?
Yes.
Okay, jamais vu happens a lot with a lot of kids. That's another French word, but it happens. Jamais vu is basically like the opposite of déjà vu. Not really the opposite. There are so many words in French, like chateau. There's no other word in English. That when you speak in French, you start to realize there's no words for this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what is that word for? Like there's a word for all consuming, like love. I forgot what it's called. There's like a word.
I mean, you have that with different languages in general,
like malefu or something like that.
Like there's like 4 words for love in Greek. I know that.
And there's one in French that's just all consuming. It's like a fire that consumes you and it makes you insane. And there's no word for that in English. It's like a crazy love when people are totally in love with each other. And I was studying French, and I was studying some of the different words, and I can read in French, and it's a lot easier to read than try to pronunciate all these different words. But it's crazy when you look at like the different words, like, so jamais vu, which is actually, if you want to look this up, folks, it's spelled J-U-M-A-I-S. Look it up, Anthony. Make sure I spelled that correctly. And if you want to study this phenomena, folks, it's something I could tell you. It's a very weird thing. And the reason I bring it up with your story is very easy, okay? Because there is this weird thing that happens with people when they have this and let me put Dick Richards on here too. I'm going to bring you on, Dick. Just mute your thing real quick. So one of the things that happens is jamais vu, because
that's how it's spelled.
It's spelled that way. Yeah, J-U-M-A-I-S.
No, J-A-M-A-I-S.
J-A-M-A-I-S. Yeah, but it's pronounced ja, like almost with a Z, like jamais vu, jamais, and ma in French the S is silent, like jamais vu.
Yeah.
So jamais vu is what happens whenever people so you say you go and do something that you're very familiar with. I had a friend do this so bad one time he had a panic attack back when I used to jump on skateboards and stuff when I was 300 pounds ago. Okay. But and Shiloh says, Josh, say that again. Jamais vu. Okay. It's like deja vu. Now, deja vu, everybody knows you'll go somewhere you've never been, be around people you've never been around, and you are familiar with it. All of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I've done this before. I've been here before. I recognize this. Something is weird here. Okay. interconnecting timelines, alternate realities, the quantum physics of it. We don't really, who knows? Maybe it's a past life. You don't know really what it is, but there's no other word for it in English. It's déjà vu, right? But jamais vu is kind of like the opposite. Jamais vu is basically like you get this weird sense of disconnect from reality. And like I said, my friend Jared, when we were kids, I remember he had a full-on panic attack. My friend had built this, and actually he's one of the people that saw the Dogman with Phil Balcar. This my friend Sean. They had a half pike at their house. And Phil's encounter is in my book, not Phil's turn, Phil Balcar. But Phil and him were really good friends, and so his dad was really into carpentry. He was one of my dad's best friends, Dad Eric, and he built them this half pike. And so we would go over there, and there was a smaller ramp too, and we'd go and we'd play in it. And all of a sudden, my friend just throws down his skateboard and starts like freaking out and has a full blown panic attack, and says he doesn't recognize any of us and he doesn't know where he's at, and we're like 14 years old, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like 13, I'm like 14, and I'm like, we're all like, what, dude? And my friend Randy was just like, dude, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he acting all weird? And so we had to call his mom, and he was like having a panic attack, and he had asthma, and we didn't know. We thought maybe it was an asthma thing, but it years later, like maybe just like 10 years ago, I talked to him about it. And he was telling me, he goes, dude, I just nothing looked familiar to me. He's like, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who Sean was. I didn't know any of us. And I grew up with these guys, and they were just like, I don't know you, man. Like, it's just totally like, I'm still friends with this guy to this day. And he told me he still gets that. Like, I talked to him about this a few years ago because I ran into him at this burger joint there in my hometown. And he was like, dude, I still freaking get that, dude. Anthony, you met him. We were at the Ice House, and he was in there one day, and we were ordering food, and me and him sat down and talked while we were waiting for our food. And stupid ass Cowboys were on the TV losing, like always. But but it was the playoffs. I was like, I don't even care anymore. So we were sitting there watching them, and I was like, dude. And so he started talking about it. And I said, hey, I have this show now. I said, and I said, several years ago, I had seen you, and you were giving me a replay of what you remember that day. And so we started talking about it, and he says to this day, he still gets it. Like, he was at work one day, and he was just like, he goes, I just started panicking. Nothing looked familiar. He goes, I looked down at this socket wrench. I don't even know what the hell it is. So that's like extreme cases of it. But people get jamais vu quite a bit when it's involved with these weird cryptid encounters. Like, people will have these encounters with cryptids, and like when you were talking about, that wall wasn't there, then it was there, and then it seems like reality kind of like shifts and changes. Dude, it's like, okay, Aber, like temporary amnesia, dude. I mean, amnesia or parasites or something.
That happens to me a lot. Like in the English language, when I hear a word, like a single word, and I hear it too much, and all of a sudden, like, it doesn't feel like a real word. Like, it doesn't, like, I've heard this word like 10 times in a row, or read it 10 times in a row, and all of a sudden, like, it doesn't sound like it means anything.
Yeah, or you look at it and it just, the spelling, even though you've seen it 1,000 times, it seems like the spelling is just off or something.
Yeah, like, all of a sudden, it just doesn't, a word that you know what it means, you've used it a trillion times throughout your life, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like a word anymore.
That's jamais vu. And there are extreme cases of it, like Jared, who still to this day gets it. He said he gets it maybe once a year, and it becomes like a full-on panic attack. He's just like, nothing looks real. Some people get it, and it's like the world looks like a damn cartoon to them, like it just looks like something out of a Japanimation or something, kind of like that picture you have right there. People just, it's like, I've heard it all kinds of different ways, and it's weird because they'll have it around the time that they have these paranormal experiences. Do you guys who are veterans of the show, do you remember that guy that lived in that house it was somewhere up in the Northeast. And once I've told the story, I have to focus on the new ones I have to memorize. So, but this guy, he gave us a story. It was out of like Boston or something like that. He was an older guy. I talked to him several months back with, but this was a few years ago. And then he reconnected with him. He moved to like Delaware or something to get away from that house. He would go into his study, and this was a story we retold his encounter on the show.
Oh, is that the one where like books from different languages that don't exist would appear?
Yeah, and it would like shift. And he developed a stuttering problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked to him back in November. I talked to him like late November, early December, a couple times, and the stuttering went away. Like it started like 3 months into living there.
Yeah,
he would repeat him, not stutter. He would say things like, like okay, for example, Dick Richards is a friend. Dick Richards is a friend. Like he would do that.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, what the heck? Because he would talk to me.
Yeah, he would like repeat himself.
He would repeat like the last couple of words, Like it was weird. And he would say something and then he would like repeat it. And I'd be like, dude, and it was throwing me off. And I was like, he's like, I could come on and tell my encounter if you want. And he would keep doing that. And I said, I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was like, well, yeah, I don't know. And while I was talking to him, like Tony heard me talking to him and he was like, who's that? And I was like, I told him who he was. And he's a really nice guy. But now I talked to him. He's living in Delaware now. And he's living right next door in a cottage right next door to his sister in this retirement community. And he's actually pretty well off. He's not like some broke dude. He bought this huge Victorian mansion and he was lonely. So he let this couple live with him and they were actually pretty cool people. He's still friends with them. The girl's boyfriend is in a band or whatever. And he lives in New York City now and he spray paints pictures for people like up in New York and people pay for him right there on the street.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool. I got to know that guy. That guy had a weird encounter in that house too. He walked into the bathroom and he was like, wow, they remodeled. And he was thinking, wait, how did they remodel? It must have happened overnight because the bathroom is all different. It was antique looking. Everything looked old, those claw foot tubs. And he had that disconnect, that jamais vu that people have. And he's just like, what in the hell? Let me get Oz back on here because sorry about that, Oz. We had dropped you earlier because we were talking. But yeah, that jamais vu, it accompanies people. So when you said that they had that wall, it was there, then it wasn't there. Right. You don't know how many times. And that is an important piece of information. Like I knew these people one time who gave me a story and I gave it to this guy that I used to do work with or whatever.
Well, it wasn't there, and then it was there.
Yeah, it wasn't there. Was there? Either way,
Yeah.
That's what happens. And I've heard this so many times. And I got these people to go on to this guy's show, and they talked about that part. They told this guy that part, and he edited it out. He deliberately left it out. And I'm thinking, right there, damn it, that is the problem right there. Because if you could put that, if you leave it alone. And stop trying to spin a narrative that's not real. Just tell it like it is. Sometimes people will tell encounters that are just completely physical. If that's the case, don't add anything to it. Leave it alone, right? They saw something that seemed physical. Doesn't mean that it's always that way. That's just what they saw. But if somebody sees something and there's something weird going on, something strange in the neighborhood,
yeah,
let it alone. Let it be what it is. That's a problem that I have with a lot of these other YouTubers, podcasters, or whatever, goobers, because they want to mess with things and make it into a narrative. They want you to say a certain thing. And it's like, no, dude, just let it be what it is, because then we can start to get to the bottom of it. Why this phenomena happens the way it does. I think that with the Goatman in particular, a friend of mine, I've told this story on the show. His car got attacked in Maryland by this Goatman maniac creature. His brother remembers it turning into a ball of light, coming out as a ball of light and then becoming a man or man-like. He doesn't remember that. He just remembers it jumping on the car and attacking them, and then they wrecked. So but his brother said it was like this. He said it was like a laser. okay, and then a ball of light, and then poof, then a creature. He
Mhm.
saw that. Of course, he was on that left side. My friend was on the other side, and his brother. When I talked to his brother, and he's a big old dudes, man. He works security, and he's like, "Yo, man, my brother tripping, yo." He's a black dude, and he's just like, he didn't see that ball of light, man. It looked like a ball of fire, bro. And he goes, "Yeah." I told him, I said, "Your brother said that didn't happen. That part wasn't real." He goes, "He didn't see it." He's like, "He was next to me," and I know what happened. They both had the experience, but one of them got a better vantage point, or he could see something that the other one couldn't. And so that's very important information, man. I mean, and it really hits home. It hits harder when you got that extra information. When you hear about this, it seems like such a small, minute thing, but it's not, because you're entering into like another reality. And now there are confirmed 100% confirmed reports that the CIA, they were in Syria and Lebanon, they were in Israel and in Jordan, and they found another reality that is inhabited by nothing but demonic entities, and they know it's real. The CIA has found this. I'm going to get more information on this, and I'm going to talk about this, because they have actually tapped into it, and they're stupid. Of course, they want to make connections with these beings. You could call them aliens, you call them whatever the hell you want, but they're evil. We know that.
Right.
Simple as that. I mean,
I do
so
have another encounter that I just remembered. It's one more, and that's the only other one that I have. But it's this guy that I met a long time ago. Not a long time ago, probably like
well,
over
Kyrie,
a
hold
year
on.
ago.
Can you do me a favor? Can you hold on to that, and then let me get to Oz, because he was on and then he jumped back off, and then we'll go back to you. King G, we'll have you on too.
So
Can you hang on, Kyrie, or do you need to bounce?
I could hang on for a little bit. I do gotta bounce eventually, because I gotta get ready for work in a
Okay.
little bit. But
All right. Well, let me get to Oz. Oz, what you got going on for us? And then
Hey,
we'll go
Josh,
back.
how are you? Can you hear me all right, mate?
I can hear you, mate. What's
Can you
going
hear me?
on?
Just in the
Loud and
car coming
clear.
back from work. Yeah, I thought I'd let you know about this, probably the first paranormal experience I ever had. I was probably about, I reckon 3, maybe 4 years old. I can remember it clearly. I had my own room, which was just next to my parents' room. And basically, my mum used to have all these teddy bears. Like, some of them were really old. And she had this one doll that was like probably 2.5 foot tall. And it was made of like pillow material. It was just sort of like soft, and it had like woolen hair, and it was called Jemima, she called it. Anyway, I never liked it. I thought it was weird. Sort of dolls sort of creeped me out, especially after this anyway. But I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I was on the bottom bunk of a set of bunk beds, so I was the only one there. And this doll was like having like an epileptic fit, like its arms and legs were like thrashing about, and
Hell no.
man, it scared the absolute crap out of me. Like this
Throw it
doll,
out
like
the window.
I didn't. Yeah, it was
Stomp on
it was on the bed, like just lying on its back, thrashing its arms and legs. Like I didn't see it run around or anything, but it just was completely like thrashing about, like just scared the shit out of me. I ran out of the room and ran into my parents' room, obviously, and yeah, I
Threw the doll back to
made
him.
my
What
mum.
is this shit here?
Yeah.
What do you got in my room, eh?
I know, yeah, it was. I think it was already in the room, but I don't know. It was in the middle of my. I just remember it in the middle of the bed, thrashing its arms and legs. Like I don't remember any noise or anything, but just man, it was so scary. It was one of the first like paranormal things that happened to me, and it just it was. I've never forgotten it. It was just so scary. Yeah. Anyway.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
And it was called
Jemima
Jemima.
the doll.
It was one of the
Yeah,
Jemima.
I don't know why. I think there was a doll on Play School called it. Play School's like a kids show that used to be on in Australia.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
yeah,
Like, hey, Croaky.
yeah, it was.
They're like, did you hear what
It was
happened to
pretty scary.
Wanda? Got eaten by a crocodile. Now, children, don't be feeding your crocs after dark. That's what happens. Yeah, well, that's crazy.
I
Dude.
believe the story. I'm gonna tease you with your voice, Josh. Do you believe the story? That's my impression of Josh.
That's your impression of me?
Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
It's his American accent.
that's your American accent?
All good. Nah, not really. I'm not very good at accents. But yeah.
Well, let me get back to Kyrie and
Yeah,
Oz.
all
Get in
good.
touch with me. Are you on Facebook with me? Do you have a
Yeah,
way to
I
get
am.
in
Yeah,
touch
I
with me?
think we've chatted once or twice. Yeah, I'll message you.
Yeah, because I
All
think
right.
that you might,
Good to see
even
you.
though you're in Australia, one of the people that's doing the recruiting for the television show that I'm helping out, she's an Aussie. She's an Aussie. And I told her a little bit about your encounter, and it'd be interesting to have that floppy ear thing. There was a guy named Leon. Leon, I don't want to say his last name, even if I can't even remember it, but I want to say Grant, but I know that's not correct. But he doesn't care about saying his name. He's very open, but he told me a story about him on his property in Arkansas. He had 3 different creatures, dude. I thought about you, Oz, and if you guys remember, we were talking about this on was it Bigfoot? When was it? Last Wednesday? It was last Wednesday.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, last Wednesday, and I wasn't feeling really good, folks. I apologize for that. Just not feeling good, and I just was tired of getting attacked by these lunatics, and it's just, anyways, that we were talking about Bigfoot, and I will go back and finish that up. And those encounters that Leon had, there were 3 different creatures, and one of them was he said it was like a Bigfoot, but when he started describing it, it had like a small muzzle, and it had these ears that kind of went up like this, and these ears, and they went down like that, kind of like they hung down. I don't know if that's the same kind of floppy eared thing that you saw.
Yeah, they didn't move the ears, but yeah, they were just like big and floppy, sort of like, like a Labrador's ears or whatever. Like, yeah, they were big and floppy, the ears. I didn't see them moving.
So it was
or anything, but like some stories you hear of them moving around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's crazy, man.
Like, yeah, I've actually got a drawing of it. I'll send you the drawing on Facebook or something.
Dude, yeah,
I don't have it next to me now, but I've drawn a pretty good picture of it.
Yeah, give me your info when you get to the house.
All right, well, it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, send me the info and send me that picture, man. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right.
No worries. Good to see you all again.
Yeah, good to see
Have
you
a good
all.
day. Peace, guys.
Drive safe.
Peace.
Don't hit any roos there. Yeah, dude, so many weird things that I got. I got a whole, like, if you saw my workspace, it's just littered with people's stuff. They send me things and drawings, and I think one of the creepiest pictures I ever had, and I won't even lie. I'm not even gonna lie about it, dude. It came from Manchester, England, or Worcester. Is it Worcester? It's that weird picture with the hollowed out eyes the guy saw, the demonic Dogman thing.
Oh, shit.
I put that away in a folder, and then I'm not even going to joke with y'all, man. When we were living in that haunted house over there, so one day Martis, he always came and sat with me, my black cat. He's always sits across from me when I'm doing my work, and he would just look at me like he's listening when I interview and talk to people. He kind of nods his head. I'm not even joking. He's like a little person. Him and Panzer both, they come in there and they would hang out because they were getting spooked by whatever it was going up and down the stairs. I'm not even joking, man. And so the fan goes on high while I'm talking on the phone, and I'm actually I think I'm on the phone with Bettina and Abe. It was me and Bettina and Abe, and I was like, "Hey guys, something weird just happened here. Let me call y'all back." And so we were on a 3-way conversation, and the fan was going real fast all of a sudden, and Martis, he looks up, and I saw the chair, those swivel chairs, Anthony? Mm-hmm. The chair was moving around like slowly. And I was like, what the freaking? So that folder opens up and those papers go flying everywhere. And the guy from England, and this is a report that I think that I talked to Paul Sinclair about it, a good friend of ours. And he's another guy that was on, Dogman Encounters until he had it out with that dude too. See, people think it's just me. Oh, just Wolf just has a problem with people. No, bullshit. Everybody that I've had a problem with, they've had problems with other people, not just me. You want to call me quarrelsome, they're definitely quarrelsome too. They just hide it. But anyways, me and Paul were talking about it, and I was gonna make a copy of that picture, dude. I kid you not, that thing like floated down right there under my desk, onto my keyboard, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, and that was the creepiest picture. The guy did it with charcoal. You know how you do it with charcoal?
Yeah.
Okay, and then he sends me that paper, and then like I don't know what the deal was, but like about a month later, I wanted to talk to him about his encounter, like to get a refresher on it. And his sister said that he had left the country and never came back. So I was just like, so I messaged. She's like, yeah, he left everything, his phone, everything. I'm like, what? So I don't know where that guy went or what happened to him. I only communicated with him that one time, and he sent me that picture of what he drew it. And so that picture went into the shredder. I'm not even gonna lie, because that was weird, dude. I was just like, why? And that was in the middle of all kinds of weird stuff that was happening.
I don't blame you.
So I just shredded it, man. I felt guilty about it. But Kyrie, let's get to yours real quick, and then King Groove, you'll be next. Go ahead, Kyrie.
So yeah, short side story to pretty much relate to what you were just saying real quick. My ex-girlfriend, she's Mexican and Native American, and I think her great grandma used to like practice that brujera, I think that's how you call it. And she was like, you know, yeah, got like really, she was like pretty dark with it. And actually her aunt who lives in Mexico in Juarez put a spell on her when we had first got together. But they had a picture of some family members and the great grandma or whatever, and next to the grandma was like a demon right next to her. And it was like, yeah, they ended up burning the picture. They got rid of it. But that was pretty crazy. But yeah, so this other encounter, the last one, is about something I heard here in Sacramento in this area called Rio Linda, which Rio Linda, it's in the far north side of Sacramento.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
yeah, it's a very rural area. And this dude, I guess he was homeless at the time, and I guess he was like in this abandoned house or just some type of abandoned building. And I guess it had to have been next to some water, but I guess he saw like this creature, and supposedly from what I remember, he only was able to see the feet, and I think he said it was like scaly, but he heard like the breathing, it was like, you know, dark, bumpy breathing, like you know, shit, like something like that pretty much. And he was like super scared, and he was like trying to do everything he could to stay quiet. I think he had one other person with him, and he was like just like trying to be as silent as possible. But the thing was massive, like huge, but he only saw like the footsteps. And it had jumped in the water, and then all he heard was like thrashing, like the water just thrashing and splashing and stuff like that. And then he got out, and then he looked when the thing had got out, because the back was like turned to them. He didn't it was like cloaked, but all he saw was like the footsteps in the grass, like huge footsteps making imprints in the grass as it walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That area, because Brown's Wood, we were talking, he was our guest on Friday. You got to go back and check that out. We were talking about all this Bigfoot activity and Dogman activity, all that stuff up in California. It was basically about California, south, north, everywhere. Because I've been all over California, been all over the West, everywhere.
I was watching
Every
that video the
nook and
other night
cranny.
at work, actually.
Yeah, and Rio
Yeah.
Linda, that is a weird area. That area was where some of the Bigfoot sightings took place. You know, by
There
the
you go.
lake. There's like a water there,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people have claimed to have seen something in that area. It's a very pretty area, but you know,
Oh yeah.
going through California, when we were going We were going from LA and we cut back up into Sacramento. We were on the Pacific Coast Highway. Then we went back over, cut up, going to Sacramento so we could go to Tahoe. And then from there, we went to Reno. And I hadn't been to Reno in a long time, so I've wanted to go back and check it out and just spend a night or two there. And so we went in Sacramento, and my friend John used to live there, JW, but he passed away, so he's not there anymore. We were locked up as kids together, so we got to be good buddies. And so he used to live in Sacramento, and I hadn't been there since I was young when I went out there to visit him and his wife. And so I was like, I want to go through Sacramento just to see it again, because it used to be such a pretty place. And it still is, or it was. But we were on the highway and we got stuck in traffic in the middle of the countryside for like an hour, and there was no construction. Now, if you get caught, in here in the countryside here in Texas, and you're just sitting in traffic, it's because there's construction. Okay. I couldn't believe it, dude. I paid to get on a toll road, and we were just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And I was like, you have got to be joking me. Finally, we got, back on the road to Sacramento, whatever. And this guy on a motorcycle just almost, I don't know how he just pulled out in front of us. I couldn't even see his back tire. I don't know how we didn't hit him. I mean, it was crazy. And these people just drive nuts because they know that they got to get where they got to get, because there's just, the traffic is so horrible in California. It's terrible. Yeah. Overcrowded. So bad.
Yeah, we got the worst drivers too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And here's the funny thing about Austin. Crazy. Okay. Austin, to me, I've driven all over this country other than the 10, 11 states up to the Northeast. I thought it was 12, but I think it's only 10 or maybe 11. But anyway, those 10, 11 states up in the Northeast, I haven't been to. I've been all over the country, and the worst drivers in the world right here in Austin. I kid you not. They're always like, the people from Illinois and New Jersey and California came here and drive like shit. I'm like, y'all been doing that before they got here. I'll blame those people for a lot of stuff. I will absolutely blame them for a lot of problems, but that is not one of them. The driving thing, nah. These people, and the Californians, it's weird because they're real aggressive how they drive. They've had to adapt to Austin people too, because Austin people, their favorite thing in the world to do is to go over into your lane, then kind of drift back into their lane, and then just yank out in front of you and no signal light. And you're supposed to just figure it out. And the favorite thing to do with the Californians is to ride people's ass. And I'm like, welcome to the immovable object, versus the unstoppable force. So I have seen more rear endings because not Texans, but these Austinites, since I've been here as a teenager, when I learned to first drive in heavy traffic here. And I started driving when I was like a kid, but I mean, first got my license driving in heavy traffic here in Austin. And I've had, I had wrecks when I was younger, haven't had any in a long time, thank God, knock on whatever. But these people, they will just literally go, 3 lanes over, and they'll just go right in front of you, and they just drift over, and you'll have this Californian like right on your ass, and you're like, okay, what's going on, mother effer? What are you doing? And you start getting mad, like this. The road rage is real. I see it every day. See people throwing this stuff at people. Haven't seen anybody shooting each other over it, but I've heard of it happening.
Go to Vegas, you
I've
will.
seen people throwing. Oh, Vegas, man. Yeah, they don't play. Vegas is rough. People don't play. The touristy areas, the metro police are real down on them, But when you get off of the main streets and stuff, it can be rough. I've been there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I stayed there for a little while too. I went out there. So these people here in Austin, though, it's just like my friends will come visit, and they're like, "What the f?" Oh man, they're like, "Oh, it's these Californians or these Chicagoites or whatever, Chicagoans or whatever." I'm like, no. They can't blame that on them. That stuff was here when the worst drivers ever. I would go to San Antonio, Houston, Corpus, El Paso, Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth, whatever major city, and nobody drives like that. Nobody does the stupid shit they do here. I see wrecks every day here.
When you're driving the speed limit and you're getting cussed out, like They purposely get on the side of you just to give you the middle finger, just because
Mhm.
you're not driving like an asshole. Like, it's crazy.
That's California, bro. Yeah, and then they come here and they're I've had Californians that come here and they're like, "Holy shit, man! These people in Austin don't," because they do not care. You could pull up next to an Austinite, give them the finger all day long. They'll just do this. They don't even look at
Mhm.
you. They do not care, and they don't believe in signal lights, dude. They just go, "No, I want to get over." Okay, and they just move over, and whoever else has to just go to hell. And so a lot of these Californians are learning that they can't just bully the Austinites because the Austinites welcome getting rear-ended. It's like they love it. I don't know what they're. It's like their religion to these people.
Because they
And
know
then
if
they'll
they
get out
get
and be like,
rear-ended,
"My back, my back, my
yeah,
crack," you know. Yeah.
because you're in the wrong. If
Yeah,
if you're
and
the
they're in the
one who
wrong. And
rear
these freaking crazy ass Californians are having to learn to adapt to how stupid the Austin drivers are. I tell you
Mhm.
what I think it is when I first came here, it was a bunch of hippie people. There's only like 180,000 people here. And now there's over 1 million or some crap. And you're just going like, yeah, these people were here and they were just driving how they wanted to. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go out to the lake. It's so beautiful because Austin is beautiful. And I don't give a shit who's behind me. I'm gonna take my time or I'm gonna do what I want. And the Californians are like, I'm gonna drive fast. And they're just like, well, that's your problem. Then they'll just rear end them. And the people here don't change. They won't change for nobody. They don't care. The Californians have been here for a couple of decades now, and they're learning that these Austin people are the most stiff-necked people ever. I
Everybody's
mean,
leaving California to go to Texas or wherever. People are leaving
mhm,
California in general, though. My sister, she's never coming back. She
mhm,
said she'll never come back to California for the rest of her life. She's done.
yeah. And I have people who've told me they're telling me all the time, like, you're homeless people here? They're like a militia. I'm like, dude, yeah, it is a lifestyle, way of life for them.
Yeah, I've
And they
been
will walk
listening
up
to
into places
your videos.
and yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I just saw
Couldn't
the other
believe
day
that
there
all
was a
that.
homeless guy at Chick-fil-A. He walked up in there and just grabbed some dude's food and walked out eating it, dude. Like they don't care.
Crazy.
And they'll fight you too. And they'll
That's
stab
crazy.
you, they'll shoot you. They have guns, cell phone. They're basically like a gang. And I'm not even joking, man. They're bum gangs here, dude. And they'll fight each other. They'll be throwing down at the Exxon, and you're just like, man, F this. I was getting gas last night and I was getting ready to pull in. 3 bums in there fighting. I was like, I just kept going. I'm just going to go to the next one. I've gotten in 3 altercations in 2 days. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
I got pictures of the latest one. They robbed some Uber driver at gunpoint, and there were 8 cop cars there at one of our properties. Anthony took a picture or video of it. It was crazy, dude. I'm just like, this is not. I'm not a cop. I never wanted to be a cop. I never had any aspirations of being a cop.
Hmm.
This is a job to make money, to make a living. Yeah, you do your job, but you don't expect to go to war with people every day. There was this homeless guy with his dog running around loose last night. And I told him, I said, I'm going to pepper spray your dog. You better get him back. Oh, he's friendly. He doesn't look friendly. And he's cutting through our property. I'm like, dude, this has got to stop, dude. I mean, and then they want results. And I'm like, yeah, you built right next to government housing. And even the government housing people aren't as bad as these homeless people. So you have the homeless people and the government housing people are just fighting with them all the time. They'll literally get into fights with them. So if you have a car, they'll come back and they'll destroy it. And then they start popping caps, dude. And the city can lie and they can say whatever they want, but the crime here is through the roof. And I promise you what I'm going to do, folks. I'm telling all of y'all, everybody on this panel right here, Dick, you, King G, everybody I'm talking to out there in cyberspace, I'm going to start videoing this crap. I'm going to show you what they're doing. And the city can lie. And I'll be like, really? Because here's a full-on documentary on it. Here's if I knew how to make documentaries, I would make a documentary about my life and just the crime I encounter on a weekly basis.
So do you think it is about out there that makes them like so aggressive, the homeless people.
The left, I'm telling you, I'm not just trying to blame like a political whatever, but they've had control. This is a liberal stronghold, and they've had control of this city for decades. And what they've done is they have allowed, they removed the camping ban, and then they had to reinstate it. And so when they reinstated it, all these homeless people went and started camping out in front of the town hall, in front of the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And these people, they're not realizing the errors that they're making. They allowed all these homeless people to come here. The city is overrun with homeless people. It's like Night of the Living Dead over here. And now we have a heat wave coming on Wednesday. And so I got to prepare for that. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But this is these homeless people. There'll be so many of them in the cold and in the heat, they'll die because there's so many of them that are living in these really thick woods here. And and so they'll find their bodies, you know. And you know, these homeless people here, it's real easy just to go and become one and just drop out of society. And you can still live and do whatever. They have camps, they have their own little towns, little barter towns. I'm not even joking. I mean, I walked into one of these camps, you know, on a couple of occasions. I've walked into one of them with the police, you know, and right adjacent to our properties as they round them up. And I could tell them, yeah, that one, this one, they did this, and identify the ones that are from the cameras that have committed felonies. And it is absolutely horrible. And the city is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're allowing it.
Must be nice to have no responsibilities.
No responsibility at all, other than to try to kill me and my people. You know, throwing spears at us and everything, every damn thing else they could come up with. Even people who are my enemies that don't like me can attest that these people, they've been on the job site. You know, they can attest that, hey, he's being honest. This is really bad. It's really bad here. I mean, you know, there's a guy that worked for me briefly that I don't like at all. He's always posting horrible things about me. He worked for me for like 3 weeks. He thinks we knew each other or something. But he's even said it before, you know, like, oh yeah, I worked at these dangerous places or whatever. Yeah, you did, but you went to sleep. Which is really stupid because it's a good way to get your throat cut with these people. You can't be falling asleep. I've told my guards, if you value your lives, don't be going to sleep. Because these homeless people, if it's a person that's like a gangbanger and the police know them, you know, by their tattoos or names, whatever, they can catch them. If it's a person that lives in one of these complexes, they can catch them. If it's a homeless person, they ain't gonna catch them. They can come up there, they can unalive you, and then just fade into the woods, and nobody will just. I mean, there was this homeless guy telling my friend Loco at McDonald's one time, you know, years ago. Me and my friend Loco used to work downtown with me. He was sitting there talking crap to him and his wife and his 2 little children. Loco's no punk, but he's with his wife and kids, and this guy's crazy. He's like, pulls out a knife right there at the McDonald's. He's sitting across from him, and he's like, I've killed 3 people with this knife. You think I won't do it? And he's just like, I don't know you, dude. My kids are eating Happy Meals, dude. I gotta go, man. He gets up and he leaves, and he's like, man, I wanted to engage that dude so bad. And this dude's an ex-military.
Right.
And he's just like, but this dude's a crazy, wild-eyed homeless guy. And he's over there in detail telling him how he's murdered 3 people and gotten away with it. And I said, I wouldn't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. Because who's going to catch him? He's just a nameless, faceless bum. And everybody's like, you're so hard on the homeless people. Do what?
You're not tied to anything. You can disappear and leave to wherever you want to go. You don't have a daily routine.
Nothing. You could be a serial killer. I mean, I told people this too. There's at least 2 serial killers right now running around. Well, they caught one guy, and it barely made any news because he was an illegal who admitted to killing 13 people and barely even a blip on the radar. They caught him at a hotel right downtown. If you look it up, maybe you'll find it. There's a story about it. They caught him. They tracked him down. They caught him. The state troopers, I think, caught him. And there's another guy, guy or gals or girl. We think maybe there might be a group of them. But I told people, I said, have you not thought about the homeless? Because when these young people are getting out of these bars and clubs and they're walking around down by Town Lake, a group of homeless people can grab you, drown you, and rob you because they're robbing them. So that tells
Wow.
me they're not just murdering these people, they're robbing them. And yeah, so that is a problem. And anybody who's been here for any length of time, they'll learn the wheel of play real quick. They'll see how it works with these homeless people. And the police can really do nothing.
I blame
And the city
drugs.
council supports them. They support these bums.
I blame the drugs.
Yeah. Well, drugs, and a lot of them are just mentally ill, but they know to come to Austin for free, whatever.
That's
Handouts.
that's a crazy combination though when you got people with mental conditions and people that didn't even have pre-existing mental conditions that ended up developing them from a overuse extended use of drug abuse and stuff like that. Like we get a lot of people from Alabama, like a lot of people from Alabama out here. And people, they follow wherever the drugs are. So the drug trafficking in Texas must be pretty horrible.
Yeah. I
Pretty
think
horrible.
just basic pharmaceutical medication can eventually, over time, warp and destroy and cause problems. Because I know it destroys neural pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
They'll
Neural.
give you these psychoactive drugs to make you do better, and then they just make you think it's worse. Just over
When you
time, it does
when you
exacerbates it.
stop take when you sorry when you stop taking drugs, eventually your brain goes through neuroplasticity where it pretty much starts rewiring and pretty much healing itself. So like, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Valerie Geis made a very good point. So I'm going to let you run unless you want to hang out. Kyrie, it's up to you. If you got to run, you got to run. I got to get the King G here.
Yeah, I'm a shake and bake. It's a pleasure being up here.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of PRT. I've been listening to you guys for a while, so hope you keep it going. Stay strong and don't let the don't let the haters end up being the demise of this channel because it's an awesome channel. One last thing, there's this other guy on YouTube. His name is Sean Clinton Shadow Productions. I think you should try to get him up here one day because he's a native and he has like a lot of knowledge on spirituality and skinwalkers and all that stuff. And I think he would be a pretty dope guest on here.
Send him my way. Let him know. Give him my email address. I'll put the email address at the bottom right here. Yeah, if you have your stories, Josh Turner, prtpodcast.com. Just send it to them and tell them to send it to me. And we'll talk, or I can retell it. A lot of people don't want to tell it. I can retell it. I'm good at that, or I can have them tell their story. So thank you, Kerry,
Right.
for coming on.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Y'all take care.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, bro. Bye.
Yeah.
So King G, what you got going on, Groove 713?
Hey, what's going on, Josh T? How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Oh shit, damn near lived your same life, man. Former bouncer, security guard for like 20 years. I had my own security company for a brief minute, so I know exactly what you're talking about with the crazies and the dope heads, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you from?
713 H-Town, North Side.
Yeah. I figured this. I should have rephrased that. Like, what part of that are you from? Because I know 713. I know what that is.
Put it like this: I went to high school with Slim Thugger and Mike Jones, so there you go.
Mike Jones.
Yeah.
Slim
Yeah.
Thug. Who? Mike Jones.
We don't call him Mike anymore. All I'm gonna say is his name has been the first name was replaced with that thing that they use to plug up a hole. That's what a chameleon started calling him a lot of other people. But I'm gonna put it like this. Seriously though, man, I've had a few paranormal experiences. Houston is a hot spot for weird demonic activity. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah. It's sinking into the ground too, faster than any city in the country.
That's why I'm in Dallas Fort Worth right now. I ain't there no more.
Yeah. Houston's a tough it's a tough place to come up from. You know, it is.
Oh man.
What part of Houston did you say you were from again?
The north side, Acres Home, Texas, Northwest Houston.
Yeah.
Houston's so big, really. It's like it's broke up into four main parts: the northwest, northeast, and then you got what everybody calls the south side. It's the southeast by the Astrodome and other shit around there, and then the southwest, which is a big area too. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the. Go ahead.
No, that's southwest corridor though, dude. Where the Katy, you know, all the way through that whole. There's some weird stuff down in that area, dude.
Oh yeah,
weird reports down there.
Oh, for sure. It's and I'm gonna tell you something, man. That's like when I meet people, and you know, if they're like middle class or suburban people, and they try to say, "Oh, well, my family lives in Houston," I just laugh and look and say, "No, they don't." I say, "Okay, where do they live at? Humble, the Woodlands, like Sugarland, like what?
Yeah.
How far? Like no, the hell you don't. I know they don't.
No,
hell no."
Yeah, Pinehurst and Tomball and all that.
Tomball, Magnolia, and all that. Bro. Hell no. You know what I'm saying?
Even though part of Houston, I will say this: the way Houston is built is so weird. Part of Houston kind of juts out. Like you'll be in Tomball and you'll go through Houston real quick, and then you'll go back into Pinehurst, and you're like, "What the hell? Like what? I just went through Houston. Like,
yeah,
don't make no sense because it just kind of juts out."
And the zoning is weird.
The zoning is all weird. I can't stand Tomball.
Yeah, my granny, she used to go to the Tomball Regional Hospital. For some reason, her doctors and insurance was out there, so we used to drive her out there. They had a real good medical facility out there. I told her, to me back then, it was like going to Sparta, Mississippi, but, you know, it was all good.
If you're on the other side of Houston, it could take you like an hour and a half just without traffic.
It's man, that, you know, let me tell you something. That shit is far. And the messed up thing, like growing up, like if somebody came through and like jacked you or your boys for their tennis shoes or something, you don't know where they're from. Like good luck guessing where they came from. They could come from anywhere. Like there's parts of the north side that most of us, until we got to be grown and driving, we hadn't even been to. And we're from the north side, but we're from a different part. You see what I'm saying? That shit, it's just huge.
So sprawled out.
That dude, it's just hoods everywhere. Like there's hoods. Oh my! You don't even get me started, bro. Like if you would meet, and it's just I ain't gonna try to promote, you know what I'm saying, dudes having a bunch of girlfriends, but it is what it is. I had a Cadillac back in the day with sitting on spinning wheels, and I had some TV screens. Like I had so many different girls in different parts of town. I had a girl in Baytown, one in Texas City, one in A-Leaf. You know what I'm saying? One, a couple of them in Greenspoint. You know what I'm saying?
City. I wouldn't even want to go to Texas City to visit somebody, dude. Oh my gosh!
You gotta take a shower when you
gotta take a shower when you leave there from Texas City.
Now Pasadena's what stinks, man.
Yeah, Pasadena is that natural gas.
That's natural ass.
Oh, dude! And when you look at that, and when you look at like I had a homeboy who came up out of the Fifth Ward, like he really was. And if you don't know what Fifth Ward is, it's northeast Houston. It's a very bad area. It's like, I guess it's northeast of downtown. Like it's about 2 miles, whatever, northeast of downtown. And it's over there bordered by the Buffalo Bayou, like that area on the south or whatever. It's a rough place. It is a really rough place. And he worked for us, and his dad became a preacher. And he told his dad, he said, "How am I supposed to stay over here in this area and become a preacher if I'm living in the hood?" Like he was right. Like he came and worked for us for about a year. Remember Big Joe? Big Joe was one of the people that had that weird stuff happen to when we did the Church of the Forgotten. He was one of the guards that was there, Big Joe. And the first time we took him to the club, man, he was like real jumpy. Like he was just expecting somebody to get shot up in there because it was a hip hop club, almost all black people. But I told him, I said, "Nah, dude, they check people at the door. They take their heaters from them, you know, and they pat them down and everything." And so he was like, "Oh, okay." So he could kind of relax. He's like, "Shoot, every time I'm over there in East Houston, you know, something happened, you know, downtown Houston, whatever." He's like, "There's a shooting, always, all the time. Everybody always be shooting and stuff." And people don't realize, like Houston, holy crap! I remember Scorpion used to date this girl in the middle of in between those wards over there, and it was the El Salvadorian neighborhood, and every house had this big 6-foot spiked fence around it, and all of them had their dogs, big dogs, running around the front yard, like, you know, just right there, so you could see that. Look, I have Doberman pinchers. I got a Mastiff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The bars on the windows. Like, good God, if you have a fire, I guess you just burn up. You just take that chance. But that's it. I mean, people were just more worried about getting somebody run up in your house. You know, it's just a
I
crazy.
mean, now what people don't understand is too, back in the day, even back in like the 80s and the 90s, those Mexican gangs all around Houston were so structured. I mean, they were structured, like more structured than the mafia. Like, I mean, they had ranking systems. This was in middle school. You know what I'm saying? It was very, very organized. It was crazy. The thing I love about Houston is, you know, unlike parts of Southern Cali, we don't have black on brown beefing. Like, brown beefs with brown and black beefs with black. That's how it is.
It does seem to be that way. Yeah, I noticed that too. Like I don't really spent a lot of time down in Houston. My Aunt Susan used to live there, and I would go there and stay, you know, as a teenager. I would hang out with her for a couple of summers. She was living off of Westheimer, but I didn't hang out just at Westheimer. I went roaming around. And so I rolled up in the Third Ward one time, not knowing what the hell I was doing there.
Wow.
And that was quite the experience, man. I got punched in my face. And once they realized that I was just a punk kid who went down the wrong, and I talk like this, you know, they're just like, where you from, man? Where you from? I'm like, dude, I just pulled in here. I don't know where the hell I'm at.
Well, see, looking at you, you kind of look like either an essay or you look like a real light-skinned mixed black dude. So it's like you're from somewhere. We just don't know where, but where are you from? For real, like, you know.
Yeah, and plus, I can get down too, man. And people don't, you know, like I used to get into squabs all the time, man. And I was not adverse to whatever it took to doing what I got to do. And my mortgage broker, really good friend of mine, he's a black dude, man. And his office used to be right here. He used to share a building with us here. He works from home now. He just kind of got used to it after the pandemic. He started just kind of whatever, and then he just quit coming in. He's a really good dude. I get along with him really well. But he's always telling me that I'm like a black dude. He says he goes, your temperament. He's like, the way you talk, the way you are. And I don't talk like that. Like a lot of people think that's how black people talk, you know, but it's not. I don't. He just says the way you handle things and the way you do things. He's like, you're like a black dude, man. And like, he's tried to get me to join this Black Business Owners Association. And I'm like, there's only 2 non-black people that are in it. And one of my business partners, Perry Travis, he's actually black, and he ran for constable in Precinct 6 and almost won. And yeah, he's a really good dude. And so they're always telling me, they're like, you're like a black dude. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a compliment from them or if they're saying that I'm a pain in the ass or what they're saying. I don't know.
After listening to you for over 2 years, I could definitely see that. I could see that.
Yeah. Well, like, is that a compliment? I don't know. Are you trying to say?
Yeah, well, like, you kind of remind me, like, one of my big homies. We used to call him the General. He was in Army Intel. You know, he left, and he was one of the smart ones. While the rest of us was doing dumb shit, you know, he left, went to the Army, made a bunch of money and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was real. He was tough. He was serious. He was all business. I'll tell you a funny story. Mike Jones had a best friend named Black Mike. They fell out. I know he's gonna hate me for telling the story, but if you ever saw a dark dude with glasses, always with him when he went Soul Train, any of the award shows, that was him, my friend Black Mike. So, you know, this dude, we were all over at the crib. We were about to go out. You know, we're just hanging out. You know how it is, Friday nights and shit. You're kicking it, you know, smoking, drinking, playing dominoes, playing Mortal Kombat. Ultimate Combat had just come out. So you already know what time it was. We were, we were hanging out. So the dude, he was on break from the Army. And he was dressed up. Me and him were about to go out and this and that. And I guess I had this girl over there, and I went upstairs and chilled with her for a while and came back. He come pull me to the side. He said, hey, man, hey, in this real stern voice, like he was Colin Powell or something. Say, hey, what's up with that dude, man? I said, what are you talking about? He said, hey, your boy, Black Mike. He said, yeah, he dropped the napkin in front of the TV and bent over and showed me his ass. I was about to beat him. What do you want me to do? I was like, man, it ain't like that, man. Calm down. I was like, calm down. I was shocked because I was just like, usually everybody gets
Why you showing me your culo, man? What's going on?
And it wasn't even like that. He just bent over and he said something to him. And instead of saying, "Hey man, I'm sorry," at the time, the little clique that Mike Jones and them were a part of, they used to call each other kid, like they were trying to be like Jay-Z from New York. So he said, then he called me a kid. And he said, "Is this motherfucker? Is he fucking with me? Is he bullshit?" I said, "No, man. No." So I made him piece it out. And he shook his head. He said, yeah, Black Mike, you understand? We're grown men, right? Right? And he looked at him. And I was like, I said, "Man, just let's get out of here." And he was just laughing because he didn't know quite what was going on. And he wasn't a punk either. He's also a big dude. But it was just, people who are lackadaisical versus somebody who's really military minded, who just came from Iraq and Afghanistan. He wasn't for no foolishness. He didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was laughing my ass off. We left out of there and went to the club.
Do you still talk to Mike Jones?
Hell no.
Yeah, I was about to say I met him years ago. I was gonna say if you did, I mean, like I don't know if he remembers me, but it was Lil Kiki concert, and Lil Kiki and DJ Screw. They had because they were from Houston area, and I knew all them H-Town dudes, man. And so they came to, and there was a female too. I can't remember her name, but they did a concert at the Realm, and me and this guy. Oh God, what's his name? Oh my gosh, he was in the tough. He was a midway. He was a tough man champion. All the way from Chicago. No, not Kimbo. I knew Kimbo. I'm talking about what's his name? Kevin Nunn. Nunn. They called him the Mandingo. They used to call. That's what they called him, man. He's a big brother, man. I used to train that dude. I trained with him for a while. They wouldn't let me do the tough man thing because I had an amateur record. So they were like, "No, you can't do it." And so I trained some tough man guys, and that dude, me and him, we got into a fight that night. And I'm not even joking, between the two of us, we probably knocked out 10, 11 dudes, man. And wow. We were in the back and we got stuck in the back, and this dude shot at us with a shotgun, and it blew part of that fence off. And we were banging on that back door, and A-Man, one of my guys, finally opened the door and we got in. This brother came up with this shotgun and stuck it through the door and just pulled the trigger, did not care who or what he shot inside that club. And that buckshot went all over the lighting and the bar, and the music stopped. And, when the music stops, everybody starts going crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they started fighting and acting a fool. And me and Kevin, big dudes, man. And we beat some ass that night, me and my guys. There was about 15 of us. And there was this big Simone guy who worked with us. I actually threw down with him too, and I put an ass whooping on him one night because he got drunk and stupid. But he used to work with us, man, and he bent this one guy into like a U, and like, dude, I heard the guy's vertebrae snap. And so we were beating the crap out of these people, and then the gunplay started, and it was right there on Riverside and Congress, and that dude Mike was there. And Lil Kiki and all of them, they were like, "Man, this is Austin." I'm like, it ain't no different than where you're from. If you
did Mike run
up in there and they all fighting and stuff, what do you think is going to happen?
Did Mike Jones run? Because that's just don't even get me started.
That's his MO. Is that what that is? I don't know. He didn't.
Dude, look, he can't even really walk around. I mean, nobody cares now, but he was getting like smacked around the corner from his grandmother's house. Like, dude, nobody liked him, respected him, just for all the lies and stuff he was telling. He was just doing like a lot of shady stuff. People was helping him, and he was just kind of just shitting on everybody. So his name is no good. Put it like this. There were some guys from Arkansas that pulled up to a block right down the street from the high school I went to, trying to buy something, if you know what I mean, and take it back out there. And nobody knew who they were. And they said, "Hey, well, we know such and such." They named him. Dudes start shooting at them dudes, man. They had to get the hell out. That was the funniest shit I heard about. I was like, what
you throw the wrong name out and they just start shooting?
Well, why would you? Well, okay, for people who know him, that's like if somebody's, okay, after all the guys from, I guess, the Colombo family got busted, and some guy shows up, "Hey, I'm a connected guy." "Oh, yeah, I'm friends with this guy, Donnie Brasco." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not going to go over too well.
Yeah. And I remember Lil Kiki being there, and him and his bodyguard. And I remember the bodyguard getting into the promoter, and I got into it with the bodyguard. And yeah, dude. And back in the day, man, I was a rough dude. I'm not making that up. I'm not even people that don't know me, that come on here from the internet. Like, here's one of my guys right here, Loki right there. Those are the guys that know me. My brother right there, Scorpion, those dudes, they remember me, Starscream, these guys from the old days. And I used to smack the shit out of people, man. I got shot at. We were doing stupid things all the time. But I mean, it was business, you know, but these people, they would say and do stupid things, man. And like this one guy, he shot at one of my homeboys at the Pulga right there on Lamar. What is it that the Mercado El Pulga at the on
Flea
Lamar?
market.
Yeah.
Where the boot place was. And my boy was trying to get some boots made over there. And this dude shot at him and ended up like hitting some dude in the arm that was trying to help him for, you know, put on boots. And so this is the kind of crazy stupidness that was going on back in the day. And people don't realize like how bad, you know, it is when you're in certain areas. It doesn't matter what city you're from, dude. The problem I have with this town, though, is that they keep trying to pretend like this is not a dangerous place. And I tell people, whether you're coming here for a football game, you know, or you're coming here to see a game with the Longhorns or whatever, just stay in certain areas and avoid downtown because it's very bad. And
6th Street is man, don't even get me started.
Nightmare, bro. You get shot
at night.
You get shot
Like
up there, man.
Not to mention there's a lot of other activity going on, but I won't mention that.
Yeah. Let's not do that. But yeah,
I'm not even going there. I'm gonna keep it respectful, you know.
Bad stuff, man.
We had a girl that we were like doing a little, you know, promotion thing, the little Chitlin circuit thing, and we had a real pretty girl who was doing a low budget movie that my homeboy had put out. You know what kind of movie, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
Well, she was on the cover, and they thought if she came down there, they could sell a bunch of them to see her live, and she was going to sign them and whatever. Well, we went there, I think it's a Thursday night on 6th Street. Most of the guys down there weren't interested, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
And Thursday night is the college night. There's a lot of college kids running around Thursday. But the Dirty Sixth has gotten like what used to be Dirty Six was the east side of 6th Street, and that was where a lot of the Mexicans would hang out from Mexico, and the Colombians and the, you know,
there was a big brawl. You know what I'm saying? Like at one of the, it was some kind of bar next to a restaurant. It was a huge brawl. It was like a bunch of country dudes versus some essays. I was like, damn, what the hell?
Yeah, there's always fights over there. Now Dirty Sixth has moved. That's where the West 6, or East 6, which is east of 35, or I'm sorry, west of 35, east of Congress. Those blocks right there are now Dirty Six, and the hipsters have moved further east, and the yuppies have moved to the west. So you have West 6, which is yuppie. If you go west of Congress, you're probably going to be a little more safe. Dirty Six now is the blocks where I used to work, 200, 300, 400 blocks. Those are the really bad blocks. Where I used to work was just a slaughterhouse, dude. I mean, people died right in front of our club, dude. And we would literally come out with hot water buckets and throw it on the sidewalk so you get the blood off of the sidewalk, so people didn't have to step in it when they look at to go into your bar. And so there was so much drama, but on that east of Congress, west of 35, that is the horrible block. It's right there in the middle, and then the hipsters are on the other side. It's a little more safe now. It used to be a heavily Latino, Hondurans, a lot of Hondurans over there, and the Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, or whatever, and they would cut your ass up, dude, for $1, man. If you said or did the wrong things. I was working there one time at a place called La India Bonita, and I got into a fight with these two dudes, and I told the story before. Something really weird happened to me. And I had an expandable PR, and I had to disarm these dudes. They were trying to stab me. And and so I maced them and I took them down, but it was like ridiculous, dude. Like they stabbed me in my trauma plate. And so it didn't catch me, thank God. But it was weird because I was up on this, like, I've said this before on the show. It was like I was up on a temple. Like there was this Aztec temple, or I guess it was. And I looked around and there was all this smoke and you could smell all this blood and death and whatever. And I looked down and there's these two little Indian looking dudes. And I'm like, I guess, because I couldn't really see myself because I was looking at it from first person. I guess I was like a conquistador holding a sword. And then I kind of flashed back, and I was up on those steps with that PR-24, and those two guys were down there with their knives, and I was like, they must have saw it too, because for a split second they looked like they were stunned and kind of bewildered. And so I got my bearings first and was like, bam, bam, bam. And I went in and I knocked one of them, like knocked him out real quick. And then the other one was kind of dancing around, and I caught him and flipped him around with that, because I knew how to use it real good. And I caught him, and I got him, got behind him, and he dropped it. I disarmed him, and I pretty much broke his arm when I spun him around. And the next thing you know, the police are showing up or whatever. And I'm just standing there and I'm looking, and there's like this big hole in my shirt. And one of them had stuck that filero into my trauma plate. And so I was just standing, the police were like, "Are you okay?" And the one cop kind of went like that. And I was just like, "Oh, crap." I was like, dude, and that was it for me. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I don't want to work these bars. That side was really, really bad. It was really bad. It was worse than regular Sixth or West Sixth. And now it's changed. That the middle part is Dirty Sixth, and it is horrible. All those Latino bars, they're all gone now. They're all hipster douchebag places. What's up, Cooper? How you doing? And so, I was talking to my dog. Hey, Cooper, what's up? So the whole scene has changed. But I would tell anybody, stay the hell away from those blocks in between 35 and Congress, because you are just as likely to get shot as have a freaking drink there. And I got friends that own bars there, and I'm sorry, but I told them, I'm like, I will not promote it. I won't do it because it's too dangerous. I'm not going to tell somebody to go down and get their ass shot off or stabbed. I mean, there were some people that were there from Pennsylvania just walking around, and there was a homeless dude that just stuck a knife in the guy's chest because he thought he was the Antichrist. And I'm like, dude, so you put these homeless shelters right there in the middle, right there. And come here, Coop. Come here. Come on, Bubba. Come on, Bubba. And so you put the homeless shelters right there. And then you have all these gangbangers that are running around in those clubs. And I used to, have friends that were working at Empire and Spirits and Inferno, Voodoo Room. Those places were really, really rough, but none of them were like Roxy. The Roxy had all the brawls, and we were the oldest of those. And we were a 3-level dance club. And you knew if people would come down there to work there just to test their mettle. They wanted to work there just to see how tough they were. And I would be like, you ever heard One Night in Bangkok, or Ice Cube says, shit, the strong even die. It's like, you could be strong as hell. You could get your ass beat, get shot, stabbed. It don't matter. It could end like that in a moment, dude. I seen it happen. I seen a guy get his throat cut, a guy named Frank, good friend of mine. And he got cut by another dude I knew, worked down there named Panther. And Panther just cut him. When me and Panther fought, I already knew his deal. He carried a razor blade in his mouth, and I wore Kevlar gloves. So I just popped him right where it was at. Because I knew, and it came out. Yeah, it came out. This dude's an OG from the old days, man. He was an OG from way back, and he used to roll around with this one set with the 60s. You know what I'm talking about? And
neighborhood 60s.
Yeah, it was hard. And he kind of went out on his own, did his own thing. Once he went down and came back out, my respects to him, but we threw down. But when he cut Frank, I watched that dude bleeding to death. He lived by the grace of God. And then when he got out of prison, and I see him at the gas station with my now business partner, he's sitting there telling my business partner like how I whooped this other dude while he was in prison. And so he gives me like $1,000, and I'm standing there at the gas pump. I'm like, what is this? And he goes, well, when I was locked up, you threw down on him, and I appreciate that. My brother told me about it. Damn. And his brother was with the Blast, another gang. And I said, man, you getting? I don't need money for that, bro. I did that because me and him got into a fight because I whooped his homeboy Creeper, who whooped my friend. See, this is like tit for tat. It just keeps going and going and going. It never ends. It's stabbing, shooting, punching, beating, whatever. I mean, I knew dudes back in the day who did some dumb shit, man. Like because the military base is right there. So some of these gangs, they were coming down here with semi-automatic weapons, dude, and grenades. I knew a guy who threw a grenade in a person's car.
Damn.
I mean, there was nobody in it, but he blew that dude's car up. I mean, like right under the bridge.
See, mainly like, who was dealing with the grenades and that type stuff was like the Asian homies, the Asian gangsters in Houston. Yeah. Well, no, I mean like Vietnamese.
They're the triads. Yeah, they're that Pacific Rim. There's three
Yeah,
of them.
because the funny
Koreans,
thing,
the Chinese, and the Southeast
yeah,
Asians.
no, I'm gonna tell you something. Like the Vietnamese, them and the Cambodians were pretty much clicked up. Like they got some of their own subdivisions and shit like that. And it's like you don't mess with them. You know what I'm saying? They're cool, but just don't. Like there was this one dude named Sang. It was some guys was messing with him, big swole Asian dude. And he came to school the next day with a trench coat and a big double barrel shotgun underneath. This was middle school. Just to kind of show everybody, like, and he'd give you a fair one, but he was letting dudes know, like, if it was going to be something else, you know what I'm saying, that wasn't happening. So, I mean, this is just, like, it was so bad when I was young. I remember, when I was a little boy, and I'm 43 now, my older brother, he's like your age, about to be 50, and another neighborhood came and had a shootout with some dudes at my middle school on the bus. Like they're shooting back at each other, almost like that scene from New Jack City where they were shooting at those guys around the corner, trying to clear them out with like Uzis and stuff. So you got guys on the bus at middle school and guys from this other neighborhood rolled through, you know what I'm saying? And they're over there having a shootout. This is when I was like probably 4 or 5 years old. So by the time I about to go to that school, even before high school, middle school, you know, we were all terrified because people was getting, you know what I'm saying, messed up. You can be hard, you can roll with a bunch of people, but somebody could catch you slipping. I mean, anything could happen. You never know. You know, it was crazy.
And you got people now like making videos, dude, like those kids from Jacksonville, the ATK fighting the KT.
That's so stupid.
And they're over there like, who I smoke, and they're naming people.
Yeah.
They're popping caps on these dudes, and then they're singing about it, dude. And yeah, people think it's a joke. They're like, oh, look at these little skinny dudes, man, doing whatever. Man, them dudes right there, Coolio said it best. He's like, you know, the smaller, you know, the bigger the gap be. You know, I mean, he's like, you know, I'm telling you, these people, they don't mess around, dude. I remember there was a group of them, of the triads. They were Vietnamese, and they had this little black dragon tattoos on their arms. Okay. And I had to go down the line. We had this Asian on Thursday night. We had an Asian fraternity. They were Koreans, but I would tell them, I don't want those dragons in here, dude, because I had thrown down with them, and there was a bunch of them, and they jumped us, and there was like 60 of them, according to the police report. And they beat up, I believe it. Dude, drug one of them off his horse and whooped his ass. And so I got my ass handed to me that night, but there was, like I said, we were outnumbered bad, and they threw my friend Willie up onto a car, and Willie's like 6'5", brother, man. And so when we got him back, we fought him for about 3 or 4 months, just payback. And we got one of them, their leader, because he was like a pizza delivery guy. He was selling drugs on his little route or whatever. We didn't kill nobody, nothing like that. But I put an ass beating on him, like I stomped his ass. Like me and him got into it. But that was it. And then we said, look, and we came to the table, and I said, y'all don't mess with us. You don't come to our clubs. You don't mess with us. Go somewhere else and just go destroy Blockbuster or whatever. Don't mess with us.
Blockbuster.
And they did. They left us alone. They you know, they went about their way, whatever. But I told them, I don't come into my club. And I would walk down, I'd look, and they'd wear those. Back in the day, everybody loved to wear those Japanimation looking shirts, man. Like they had like the Street Fighter shirts, that were like those, like a button down, the kind of baggy shirts, and so they came down to right here. But they started getting them real big so they could cover up that tattoo. And I'd be like, lift up your sleeve, and they'd be like, my sleeve? Nah, lift up your sleeve, dude, because I know you're one of them. And they would pull it up, and I see that little on their placa, and I'd be like, nah, you ain't coming in here, bro. And he'd be like, why not? Like you don't know why? Because you got that tattoo. I know exactly who you are. Don't play with me, dude. And they did. Dude, I told them I had a hat, a Dallas Cowboys hat, and I had an elbow brace. And when they took that hat and they yanked my elbow brace and my wrist wrap off, they all started screaming and cheering and shit because they took it from me. And so I told them, there was one of them, they called him King. And I told him, he was Cambodian. I said, get me King, bring him here. He wasn't even the main leader, but he was probably one of the toughest ones. He was a kickboxer. I knew him. And I said, I want my stuff back. You're not keeping those as trophies. That is not going to happen. That will not happen. I was like, you want a war? And so they went and they got that shit. They brought it back. And then that was it. We were done. I was like, you know, but you ain't coming in my club no more, you know? And so I banned them, and I gave them 6 months. And after 6 months, they started wanting to come back. And I said, one problem at all, and it's going to pop off like a match. You know, it'll be, you know, and never had a problem with them again. Smooth sailing, never had a problem. And I ran into them at Drillers over there in Houston. Years later, my homeboy was over there hanging out because there was a kickboxing tournament, and then we were going down to Benton for the cockfights, which I used to go to. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore because it's brutal, it's horrible. But I used to fight too, backdoor fight, and we go over there to Beaumont and we throw down. Well, it was bad back there, but they had a guy named Action Jackson down there. And he would roll them bones, and boy, everybody was scared of him. That's when I first heard about the Black Bunny Man, that terrifying story that these black dudes would talk about the Black Bunny Man. You rolling them bones, and then he'd come up out of the shadows like out of smoke. It's a creepy story, man. The people from East Houston, Beaumont area, they talk about that dude. It gives me the chills when I think about it. But he's kind of like, what's his name? The voodoo guy.
Candyman.
What's his name? Papa
Shango.
Oh God!
Papa
Somebody
Doc.
help me here. I'm blinking out. Papa. Somebody will tell me what's his name. But anyway, he's like from the Crossroads, right? So that dude, I can't remember his name. But anyway, that dude, when I would go down there and he'd set up these fights, man. And he says, "You want to go to Louisiana and make some money?" Dude, I'm not even bullshitting, man. I wish Tony was here. He knows the story. His dad, Papa Legba, there it is. He tells me, he says, "Dude, this guy you're about to fight, he looks like Blanca from Street Fighter." And this was back in UFC. You wasn't no money in UFC or any of that crap. There wasn't no money.
They were still doing that K1 stuff.
Yeah, there wasn't no money, man. I mean, you could do some fight. You could make a few grand, whatever. This dude comes out, man. He looks like a Bigfoot, dude. I'm not even joking. I'm like, what is this dude? This don't even look like a normal human being, bro. For real, man. He looked like he was half black or something like that. I don't know, man, but we fought and he kept getting back up, and I kept telling him I don't want to keep fighting this dude because this dude's barely, and they just kept getting mad. And then afterwards, everybody started shooting.
Damn.
So they ushered me into a car and we got the hell out of there. And these dudes didn't want to pay. And then, we knew that my promoter, my friend who was Tony's dad, whatever, he knew these guys. He said, okay. And they were some Vietnamese dudes right down there with these brothers down there. And so they were Filipinos, Vietnamese, Mexicans, and basically black people. And they each had their own little cliques, and they all had cocks fights. They would bring their cock fights. And then everybody would go to the dog fights, which I never participated in, never went to, never was a part of that because I thought it was horrific. And I even rescued a few of those dogs from those guys, man. I said, look, man, I this is horrible, But fighting myself, yeah, I would go and fight. And I fought this one dude down there, and he was, dude, the guy looked like he was some kind of Neanderthal, dude. I don't know what he was. He was so weird looking, his protruding jaw. And we threw down, and everybody was like, after the fight, because this guy had never been beat up. And so everybody was like, oh, well, Wolf's bigger than him. He gave up like 30 pounds. They're making all these damn excuses. And I was like, you brought out a freaking Bigfoot to fight me. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or whatever, bro, but for real. And so these dudes that we were with, they were these crazy ass Mexican gangsters, and they started fighting with those Vietnamese, and then the Vietnamese guys met us, and then they paid us, and then we got the hell out of Dodge, and I never went back over there. And Beaumont too, another rough place. But all those places, just I don't even know how I survived. Only by the grace of God.
And that's all you can really chalk it up to, because man, I got experiences. I mean, just all kind of silly shit like that going on, like around Houston back in the day, and then we were traveling, trying to promote, doing a little mixtape thing, whatever, and it was a lot of weird experiences. We saw a lot of strange stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, again, without Jesus, man, I wouldn't be here either, brother. So I'm with you. Definitely.
I'm glad to survive. To me, it's a testament. Living wild like that every weekend, I don't remember which rapper said it. It was like, every day is a day that your life might fade, so the day is a day that you got to get paid. I don't remember who said it, but I was just like, that is the truth, because
real.
You get up every day, and I used to pray every day, and it was like I was living on that dark side, and I still prayed because I was hypocritical. Mm-hmm. But I would go to work, and I would be on my way to work, and I'd be like thinking, am I going to live tonight? That's the truth. This the God's honest truth. Just being completely honest. I'm thinking at some point, one of these fools is going to shoot me. They're going to get the bravery up enough to get close enough to shoot me. The other thing that didn't, because I had like 40 brothers, and we all wore this ring, or they had the tattoo, and we were all just kind of, we hustled together. And if they mess with them, each one of them, with the exception of my inner circle, they all had their own little cliques, and we were
Yeah.
friends with all these other cliques, which is were like our allies, So you could muster up 200 to 300 dudes real quick if I had to. So they knew that if somebody did that, there was going to be a vacuum, and the person that did it was going to be taken care of immediately. So that's the only thing I think that really kept me alive. I can't chalk it up to my own persona, but there was this mystique around me and my name, and people still to this day downtown, they know who I am.
Right.
And they'll get the Canvas Wolf. Everybody knows who I am, and that infamy, that name that's attached to it. But now people know me from the show, but people know me as Josh Turner. People down here don't call me. Nobody calls me Josh Turner. They call me Wolf. Nobody says Josh Turner.
Your government name, huh?
Josh Turner is like Josh Turner. Who the hell's that? They know Wolf. And so it's really. I want it to be. The people remember me for this, but there is a past, and I do want people to know. My enemies, the ops, have tried to say stupid things like, "Oh, this guy, he did this, blah blah blah." It doesn't matter because I put everything out there. So you ain't going to dig up no dirt on me, homie. I mean, I've already thrown everything out there that you could think of. Yeah, I did things. I did bad things, but I've repented, and I've been
Right.
Christ is the Redeemer. That's the whole point. You don't stay in that life. The fools, I say fools, even my beloved brothers who stayed in that life, they're dead or in prison, or they went to prison and died. Either way. I mean, I know one guy, he died in prison recently, a good friend of mine. He was in there forever.
I remember I got my auntie got a letter about my cousin. He was, I think, in like Beeville or Garza, one of those penitentiaries out there. Yeah, we got a letter that said two things. It was so weird that he was in the hole, but it also said that, he had got poked. You know what I'm saying? He had got shanked, whatnot, but he was fine. So we like, okay, well, why is he in the hole if he got poked? He had knuckles like Joe Louis. So it was 3 essays tried to jump him, and he beat them so bad they were all in the infirmary. I think 2 of them were on life support. So he was in the hole. Yeah. And this is like who taught me a lot of stuff about survival, who raised me. He's probably about your age, maybe a year older, but that's who, my big cousin / play brother. He taught me, and it was guys like him that school these youngsters on what to do, what not to do. It's not just about being tough, but what they don't understand nowadays is you have to politic in the streets. If you're going to survive, you have to, bro. You have to.
Not just street smart either. You got to think 10 steps ahead, dude. I was good at that. That was one thing I was always really good at. Like these people that tried to start war with me over the internet, I had never fought an internet war, but it didn't work out for them. And I tell people all the time, war is war. Tactician's a tactician. I mean, you can learn. I mean, Miyamoto Musashi. Just read.
Machiavelli.
Yeah, Machiavelli. People don't realize what Machiavelli, they think it's like this evil maliciousness. No, he's basically telling you that just being a good person isn't going to get you anywhere with people because people are so warped. He's talking about you're living in an evil world. That's what he's telling you, and how to survive in that world. Now, you can try and be the most honest, best person you can, and you will still get attacked. Here at PRT, we have been, in my opinion, the pinnacle of honesty and tried to have integrity and tried to do everything correct. And still we have this group of people aligned against us that will do anything to destroy us. And some of those people don't even know why. Well, I'm telling you, because they're programmed automatons, they're meat puppets, and they're being programmed by this demonic force that wants us to stop. They don't want people to do what we're doing. And what we have been doing, what we are doing, is getting the whole enchilada. It's all connected. Everything is connected, and people don't understand that. The past, present, future is all in play at one time.
Well, this is
understand that.
No, I got to say, this is a very special place for me because there's a whole bunch of different, cryptid channels and whatnot. But, the rest of them, they're not like a religious based, like you're coming from the Bible to try to help explain some of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you something, after Brennan saw one, after he died, rest in peace to him, there was nothing else like that. This is the only thing I've found that was something similar to that, where people could come and, you know, a lot of us have a biblical worldview. So it kind of explains some of the weird shit that we see going on out here. I was supposed to go on his show, but he got sick with cancer and he died.
Yeah, and you notice how he died so quick.
Yes.
Too.
Yes, he did.
Because Brenton, to me, like we were in works to try to get something going, a collaboration.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And when he got sick, you know, he had reached out and said, I have cancer. And I'm like, then he was just gone.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I said, there was something that didn't sit right with me about that, because look at him, Kerry Arnold, Scott Carpenter. I'm talking about people that were very close to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that Scott Martis was starting to turn the corner from being this physical flesh and blood, and a lot of these apers and people from the water cryptids, whatever, they looked at those at him as a very you know, like a staunch physical. He was starting to work with me. He wanted to do a project with me, and he was going to come out and talk about how he doesn't think these things are completely physical. And he did a lot of work on the Lake Champlain monster, which this Friday we have Katie Elizabeth coming on, and she's done a lot of work up there, and I'm going to talk to her. I'm looking forward to that. But you have to understand something. The community was starting to change. It was starting to turn the corner and starting to become more about what we needed it to be, about the actual spiritualness of it. But then you had the old guard who took a stand, and I think they used these up and comers that were looking up to them, sucking up to them, to go after people like me to stop that revolution from taking place. They weren't going to allow it. And so these idiots, they took the bait and they went along with it. And I'm like, dude, you're defending an outdated and archaic notion, which is grounded in atheism and falsehoods. And
Satanism.
Really, and Satanism. Yeah. And these people that came after us, you know, it was just like there was one wave and there was another wave and another wave. The guy that I was working with, that a lot of people, you know who I'm talking about, like he was not about to bend, because he wanted them to accept the fact that these things were a flesh and blood creature, so he could be more accepted by the community at large, i.e. Bigfoot and all that. And I kept flat out saying, that is not correct. That is not right. That is not what's happening here, because we're omitting a lot of truths here. And when you take out the truths of people's stories, that becomes a lie to me. And when you change the words, that's why so many times people get mad, they get aggravated when I say my words, not theirs. It's important to say that.
Yeah.
Because I'm repeating the story. So if they go and repeat it and they don't say it the way I told it, then people are going to say you're a liar, and I can't have that. So when I remember, I got to say, hey, my words, not theirs. This is what, this is how I'm spinning it, telling it, whatever. But I think it's very important that we do that. And I think that there is a very, very evil element that runs this undercurrent, that runs through this community, and it infects these people. And there is so much darkness that is around, because when you start to shine the light on these entities, these creatures, these beings, whatever, they don't like it. Like tonight, earlier when we were talking to Singh, Samuel Singh, about his encounters in Guyana. And we talked about all these different creatures down there, these different names they have for these different entities and whatnot. Those creatures don't like being named. They don't like you shining the light on them. They don't like being discovered. They want to be able to pray and be undisturbed.
Well, you remember, what is that? The Testament of Solomon?
Yeah, the Song of Solomon. Yeah.
No, the book from the Apocrypha, where he was. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. One of the eerie things towards the end of that, one of those demons said that basically they weren't worried about him, King Solomon. They said, you might have us to torture for a time or 2 times and a half or however long. They said, but later in man's evolution or history, whatever, men will forget our names and they'll forget the names of the angels who thwart us. So we'll be free, loose upon man and on the earth to wreak havoc again. And I think about now, that's what's going on. Like most people who go to church or call themselves Christians, they don't even believe demons are real. It's like
No.
most of Jesus's work was casting out demonic entities. So how is it that y'all going to say demons aren't real? These people are crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about that Joel Osteen crowd, dude. It's just that feel-good message, and then you have guys like what's his name? And I'll say his freaking name too.
John Hagee.
John Hagee, dude, who says that
I
Jesus
knew it. I
wasn't
knew
even
it.
the Messiah. And you're sitting there going, like, what are you talking about?
Crazy
Like,
eyes.
how can you say these things? Like, and he's like, Jesus was not the Messiah. I can't even repeat it. It's so disgusting.
I know.
And he says these things, and Benny Hinn, he's another one. And then they tell you exactly who, like, Jesus tells you exactly who these people are.
Right.
And he says, your father is not my father. He tells the Jewish Pharisees that. He says, your father is Shaitan, and then you're the synagogue of Shaitan.
Right.
My father is the Most High. He's differentiating right then and there. He differentiates it. And then he says in Revelation 2:9, he says, you suffer under those who claim they're Jews, but they are not. He says it in Revelation 3:9, you claim. He says it again. He reiterates it.
But those are actually the synagogue of Satan.
The synagogue of Satan. And they are Khazaric. They are not real. They're not, and then they go to Israel and they usurp the actual bloodline of Christ.
That's why DNA tests are illegal in
it is. Yeah. You're not even wrong
That's
about
a whole
this.
other story.
Yeah, and they killed that dude. He died in Montreal. I don't even want to get into all that because I don't want to get
right. Of course, can't say that.
Can't talk about it, but and now you got these crazy things like Kanye coming out and making.
Oh man,
because he's wonder like, okay, why is it that this is happening? That I talk to brothers all the time, man. I mean, like, I'm not like virtue signaling because I'm on the right, bro, for real.
Right.
I'm not over here like, yeah, man, I'm hanging out with my boys from the hood. No, I have a lot of black friends, man. They've even tried to get me to join the Black Masonic, whatever. They've invited me, which is that's whatever. Now that is a weird thing too. They actually split from the other Masons a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they invited me to join because I have a lot of friends that are, and I think it's because like I've always been comfortable, like growing up around Black and Hispanic people. I'm comfortable around white, Black, Hispanic, Asian. Doesn't bother me. Like whoever. I worked with Arabs for years. I worked for some Jewish people. Doesn't really matter to me, man. But the bottom line is this. Yeah, somebody just said it too. I wasn't gonna say the name of it, but Paranormal Oz just mentioned it. Yeah, Prince Hall. But yeah, I have a friend of mine who invited me to go and he wanted to know if I wanted to join. And I appreciate the offer, but I'm not into being a Mason. But the thing about it is what people don't understand and what they don't grasp is we are starting to see an awakening, but people are awakening and they're getting it twisted. You know what I mean? Like they're waking up and they're just like, oh my God. And this is what's going on. And they just flip out and their circuits are all fried. So if you look at like that movie, The Matrix, it kind of tells you, how he wakes up, and he's like in that embryonic, what's it called? Fluid, that embryonic fluid. And he's like got that thing on his mouth or whatever. And you wake up and you're like, you come up out of it and you're like in the real reality. Folks, this is a matrix. This is an actual matrix. They have enslaved us. And I'm telling you, the Black Cube Society, just look it up, bro, for real. The cube of Saturn. Who is Saturn? Saturn is Satan. Okay.
Yeah, man.
And people, when I tell them that Lucifer and Saturn or Satan are two different things, they don't grasp it. Let's put it this way. They're part of the same. Yeah, they don't grasp it. They're part of the same family, but what they don't get is that Satan is a title and it is a race of beings. So the head of the Shaitan may not be him, but he's one of them. It's like me saying like, I'm part Comanche, but and that's like saying, oh, the Comanche is Josh. Josh is Comanche. That's two different things.
I got it. That's kind of like somebody saying, hey, well, look at that. Who was that over there that just attacked the Autobots? It was Megatron. No, it wasn't. It was Galvatron. Same dude.
It's the same. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the same thing, but he became someone else. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the Transformers actually had it correct because, like, I remember Bumblebee became Goldbug, and they
Oh
even
man.
took it a step further, like the Spark, right?
Right.
If you look at that one guy that was on the Beast Wars, he was one of the main guys, like a hippo or something like that. I remember his character, like a rhino. He becomes later on in one of the other ones, like War for Cybertron, I think it was, or whatever. He becomes a Decepticon, and he's one of the bad guys because it's like another incarnation. People have asked me this question because I know Transformer lore, I know Predator lore from the Predators and Aliens. I know that real well. But one of the reasons that people don't understand that is because that spark, that's all they need, and that electricity, I guess it would be like their soul. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's based on Buddhism because it was created by Japanese people. So even the Transformers have a form of reincarnation. So whenever people don't understand that in the West, they're like, how can he be that guy and then become this other guy? And he flipped polarities, and people can do that. People can be an absolute evil thug ass dude, and then they just flip and they become a good guy. They don't lose their energy or their power because God restores them. They breaks them down, then he restores them because he knows you can pull that weight.
I mean, look at how Saul turned into Paul in the New Testament.
Yeah, Paul became Paul. That's the thing. Like I became Wolf. I couldn't handle all the pain I went through, and I just was like, people making fun of me, calling me this name. Later on, I embraced it. You know, when I boxed, when I fought, when I coached. You know, I just became a new man, a new person. But that guy was evil. You know, he was not a good guy. I thought I was good because I had my own little code of ethics or whatever. But at the end of the day, even if you're only fighting with other bad guys, you become a bad guy yourself. And so what ended up happening, I had to flip polarities and go back to being good and truly being good. And God had to break me down. There was a couple of years of suffering that I had to go through. And then God said, okay, you're ready to go now. I've you know, and I'm still a work in progress. Nobody's perfect, but I don't deny my past. There are people that are foolish people who talk about how pious and holy they are. And they say, my wife crawls on her knees and prays for 4 hours a day. And 50-foot angels protected me and all this other nonsense. Yeah, whatever, dude. You're holy. You're so holy. You've never committed sins and whatever. These people, some of these people.
And the other 4 hours of the night when he sleep, she's probably on AshleyMadison.com looking for a side piece.
Amazing.
You know what I'm saying?
Amazing.
Well, and then if you look up their criminal record, not to be ugly or rude, but the guy just plastered some stuff about me and my wife yesterday, and I'm like, oh, really? Because you know, our stuff is, we don't hide it. We don't hide who we are, what we are. He does. And I was like, my wife's never been busted for dope or guns.
There you go.
Because if you're on probation, you ain't supposed to have a gun.
Nope.
Right. And my wife ain't on probation. So, you know, let's not, you know, these people, they got these skeletons in the clock. Eddie Murphy said they open the mouth and a bone fly out. I mean, you shouldn't be talking if you can't be doing, you're over there. If you can't do the walking, they'll be doing the talking. And these people are doing all this talking. See, that's the difference between them and me. You're not going to find skeletons in my closet because they're already out in the open. I don't even hide myself.
I mean, there's just so much stuff going on now, like the media. And I really believe they're trying to separate the different races, even separate the different denominations of Christianity, keep the Christians and the Muslims fighting. As long as they can keep all us fighting, they can just do anything they want. They can keep running game on us, and all this weird shit just keeps happening. And I'm against it, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I'm against it.
Yeah, me too.
Divide and conquer. Together you stand, and divided you fall.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Well,
here's a comment right here from Abracadabra, Nazi propaganda, media, MK Ultra. Here's what I'm going to say about this. I'm going to say this, and this is going to be very controversial, but it's the absolute truth. I'm not saying that Kanye made a song about a great man. Don't get it twisted. Okay.
I saw that last night.
Yeah. What people don't understand, though, and like people are saying, oh, they would have killed him. Actually, no. They had an Africa Corps that was comprised of 70% Black African people. The British did not use them in that way at all. They used them as slaves. I mean, let's be honest. They were basically glorified slaves. The Germans actually gave them, and a lot of actually Muslims and Arabs, you know, like, hey, you help us, you'll become our partner, because they were partners with the Ottoman Empire during World War I. The Germans never had slaves. That's a fact. That is an absolute fact. That is the truth. I'm not German, so I'm not defending them and saying that they're the good. But one of the things that people keep doing is saying Nazi, 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 Nazi. What they don't realize is they're dead, they're gone, and they're not coming back, and they're not here. They're not running your programs. I will put my hand to any holy book on earth. I believe they are not running your programs. There are a group of people that are running the programs. So if the mainstream is telling you that's what it is, then they're lying. Promise you. But the main threat that we have right now politically is communism. Now, there is a part of me that believes in socialism. I do believe that we should have an allotment set aside every month for everybody to have a certain amount of food. You shouldn't have to pay for subsistence level food, no matter who you are. There should be a allotment for that.
So basically, you're saying Jumbo Jack should go back to being 99 cents, is what you're saying. I'm with you, brother. Preach, brother, preach.
Let me tell you, man, like we give money to these countries that can afford to educate, to feed, to clothe, and house all of their people and give them medicine, but yet we can't do that ourselves. Why not? Why is it that we can't? I don't criticize people for getting $800 on an EBT card. I don't give a crap. I think every citizen in the country should get that once a month, and you should get free medical, and not in the way that Canada does it either, where they could do it correctly if they want to. They don't do it correctly. They don't. They lie and they lie. And then everybody wants to blame the Nazi this and Nazi that. No. And George Soros was Jewish. He wasn't a Nazi. I'm sick of people saying that. That is not true.
I've been called a white supremacist before. I've been called that several times.
They've been calling me that for years, or they call me all kinds of, they've called me communist because I said something about 18-year-olds shouldn't be able to buy a freaking assault rifle at 7-Eleven. I'm not joking. You can walk into a gun show and it's pretty laxed. And I don't feel comfortable with teenagers having guns. I'm sorry. Now, I think a person my age should be able to buy whatever the F he wants. For real. I put that on anybody. But a kid, hell no. And then these country people, some of whom I'm related to, they'll be like, well, we have them out at the ranch or out at the farm. I have a ranch. I understand that. I said, yeah, but they ain't coming out there and checking your son for shooting a copperhead with the gun, a rifle. I'm talking about taking it into town and running around with it. You don't need that gun in town like that. Not if you're a kid. Now, if you're a kid and you're growing up in the 5th Ward, I mean, you're going to have a gat. That's pretty much like a kid. But I'm talking like these people, you don't need to have that weapon and you don't need to buy it. And I think there should be a serious training course and a psychological evaluation for anybody who buys a weapon.
You know what, though? And this is the sad thing. Like way back in the day, even before this country was technically formed, everybody had guns. You had 5, 6-year-olds that were out on the farm or the plantation or whatever. And they had guns. So when, the man and the older boys would go away, in town and go to buy seed or buy new stock, the young boys protected the women and the girls, and they knew and were proficient with rifles at like age even 5, 6, and 7. Look at that movie with Mel Gibson, The Patriot. And I know you know what scene I'm talking about. When he had his sons, shoot those British officers that had Heath Ledger. You know what I'm saying? It's like the thing is now that we've demonized guns so much and you got all this stuff in the media, everybody's, so polarized and crazy. It's almost like a crack pipe. Like, ooh, as soon as I get it, I'm just going to go crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I believe you're right that we do need training, and there should be like certain guns real youngsters should not be able to get, because these 18-year-olds nowadays are not like the 18-year-olds of the 80s. These bastards are crazy.
And most of them are on SSRIs as well.
There you go. Hallucinating and shit. Talk about Bigfoot. They see Bigfoot every time they take their medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, I just got an emergency call. I got to get going here. I got to leave by midnight anyway.
Okay.
Cooper Young, sorry, man. In Groove, I
kind of joined in there a little late.
Yeah, we just started talking. Guys, come back on Monday and let's talk again, and we'll get to some stuff here. We had some great stuff that we talked about today. This life in general and all this weird, Dogman encounters and whatever else. I mean, it's crazy stuff. Everybody's got some crazy stuff, dude. But remember what I said though, and I don't know why I've never talked about it on the show before, but jamais vu. Jamais vu, which is something that happens when people have these encounters. They get this disconnect from our reality, like nothing looks familiar. It's a very real thing. And Ken G, make sure that you come back. I'd like to talk to you again, and we get to some encounters. And I'd love to tell the story of the Black Bunny Man, which is like a creepy story. I've heard that before.
My story was about the devil. The main story I was going to tell. I saw him, so we will get to that. I definitely.
I'm sure you guys. I know Cooper, you do, and Dick, you do. But do you have my information on Facebook? You can message me, directly message me.
Man, I just recently joined Facebook. I ain't gonna lie. I was kind of trying to be off of all that. I didn't want to be part of it. But...
Yeah, I've been off of that for years.
You got Optimus Prime with a fro on there. I remember you. I'd be like, hey, that's Optimus Prime with the fro, man.
There you go. On my Facebook.
With, Tim Meadows, where he had what was it called?
The Ladies Man.
I can't remember the name of it.
Which one?
Tim Meadows. He was like a pimp, or like he talked like this. He was like
the Ladies Man.
Yeah, ladies Man. There you go. Yeah, Ladies Man for real. You could be like the Ladies Man, Optimus Prime. Be like, what's going on, ladies?
Yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Most of my jobs when I was doing security and a bouncer was at the titty bars back in the early 2000s. I used to love that shit. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Stayed away from those places, man.
Yeah,
that was run by the Albanians here, and we were not on the same page.
Really?
Yeah, we had a little uneasy. Them and the Lebanese didn't like each other. So
in Houston, it was more like Italians, Greek, and Irish were the ones who ran those.
The Greek, but those Greeks here, they're Albanians now. Here, and no offense to Albanians, I know some Albanians, but the Albanians like to hide and pretend like they're Greek and Italian. But
Marco from Tapulia.
I'll tell them too. I'll be like, man, don't, because there's some guys in Taylor. I always give them a hard time. They got the Albanian flag. And they make pizza. And I go, where are you from? Sicily. I said, yeah, okay. And I'm the Pope. You're Albanian. He goes, how you know that? I said, because you got that two-headed eagle right there. That's the flag, bro. Don't be faking the funk with me, man. I know where you're from, bro. And I said, and I know them guys that run them clubs up there ain't Greek either. Those are Albanians, man.
I found out about the so-called sixth family in New York City is Albanians.
Yeah, they are. And they're Albanian Sicilians, which is weird. And another thing that's weird too, if you look at the map, the Mandela effect, Sicily is like right on top of Italy. It used to be further away. Because I remember reading about Operation Torch and when the Americans, they had to like drive their boats, to it's not, now you just like walk. I mean, it doesn't even make no sense. Just like I said about the Indian subcontinent,
Really?
It's real tiny now. Dude, Sicily used to not be as close as it is now.
Sicily used to be right at the toe of the boot.
It is at the toe of the boot, but
Yeah,
not in my timeline. Maybe in your timeline.
Damn.
Not in mine.
Really?
But yeah, I could even draw a map of where it was at. It was like about 60, 70 miles further out.
Yeah, not like touching the toe.
It's almost touching it now.
Really?
Yeah, in Africa, like is almost touching Spain. It's like, dude, I'm telling you, the map is all weird, bro. For real. It's not the way it is. Not the way it was in my timeline. They can fool a lot of people. They ain't fooling me. I see things all the time and I'm going like, that ain't how that was. There's certain curves and roads and stuff. And I'm like, that isn't how that was. I think it's a psyop. It's a psyop, and they're doing it on a quantum level, and they're trying to see how far they can, who's going to pay attention. They're going to kill me because they know damn well I'm not going to buy into their bullshit. I'm not. No,
you're probably right.
Like either they didn't get me with the JAB, they're not going to get me.
Hey, oh my!
You're smart, man. Square one gets me.
Amen to that.
All right, guys. Hey, get in touch with me though, King. I tell you what, just hit me up on my email, joshturner@prtpodcast.com, and we'll talk. And maybe because I need to record more, because I'm going to be doing more work on Spotify. And I'm eventually only going to do like maybe 1 or 2 shows a week on YouTube. Probably it's not going to go to my website. But because there are people who can't afford to pay the $10 or whatever, I'm still going to do a couple episodes on YouTube. Just to,
I was a member last month, and I guess my subscription ran out. But I want to warn you about something. I talked to, I guess, Lola in the chat on my other account. YouTube has been unsubscribing people from your channel. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you probably look. They've been doing this to people for the past 10 years now, especially channels that delve into the unknown, or even like some of the red pill channels where it's just kind of telling some truth that's going against the matrix or the mainstream, they just shadow ban people and unsubscribe people. So I just had to resubscribe to get on my other channel because I was wondering, like, I got 2 separate phones. I'm like, why is it I'm getting notifications on the other phone, but on this phone I'm using now, I never get notifications to y'all. I listen to y'all all the time when I go jogging with my dog at night. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I only get notifications on one phone. So that's crazy. While I was a member, it unsubscribed me from this account. That's wild.
Yeah, all the time. They mess with me constantly, dude. They don't like what I'm saying. And they said, well, it's done by AI algorithms. I don't give a damn. AI don't like me either because I know what it is.
There you go.
You know, I know what it is, man. I'm telling you. That's why whenever we talked about like what we talked about tonight, I'm going to have to reiterate that when we get a bunch more people like on a Wednesday or a Sunday about the jamais vu, because people are getting that disconnect, that weird feeling when something happens. Yeah, because you're not in your own reality. It's bleeding together. And I can tell you exactly what these things are. And I feel kind of like my time, I don't want to speak something into existence, but I think they would rather me not be here. Let's put it that way. And the quicker I can get the information out and the more I can get it out, the better. That's why I do so many shows. I don't do this for my health or I damn sure don't do it for the money because I don't make any money. But it's basically like I just got to get this information out before they take me because, you know, it is what it is. You know, once you start telling the truth and you lay it out there, people they get messed up. They get messed off because these beings that control everything and they're puppets, they're meat puppets, do what they got to do.
I'm going to pray for you, brother, in Jesus' name. Just remember, he that is in you is greater than he who's in the world. So just know that. Amen. I got your back.
I appreciate it, brothers. I'll see you guys, man. Richards, did they get in touch with you?
Let me know. Hannah called me this afternoon. Yeah.
Good.
Yes,
okay, guys, I will see you. Cooper, hit me up. And just to answer your question, John Maddox says, what's an assault rifle? Any rifle that you use to commit an assault. Assault rifle. Sometimes if somebody's trying to assault me, I'm going to assault them back, right? I mean, the weapon is only as dangerous as the person that wields it.
Amen.
Anyway. All right, I'll see you guys.
Peace, brother.
All
right, peace.